Today's episode is brought to you by thisdayintheNFL.com. Celebrating football's greatest moments, one day at a time. Listen to classic broadcasts, explore historic games, and keep the legacy of the NFL alive at thisdayintheNFL.com.
Basically out of the way now, we'll be ready for the kickoff very, very shortly. And I think we should remind you that there is a sudden death provision for this game today because there has to be a winner. One of these two teams will meet the winner of the game later today between Oakland and Miami in the Super Bowl 2 weeks from today. So if the score is tied when the regular 4 quarters are completed, they'll take a 3-minute break, and then there will be a sudden death. And by sudden death, we mean the first team that scores wins the game. Well, just like last year, it's my great pleasure to be working again with Don Klein, the sports voice of KCBS in San Francisco, and Fred Cox is approaching the ball right now, so let me approach Don Klein.
Thanks, Andy. As Minnesota gets set to kick off here, it's been 5 seasons since the Vikings were this close to going all the way. A success story fashioned around 12 victories and 2 defeats during the regular season. The Vikings clinching their division in the 9th game of the campaign, the earliest any team has ever wrapped things up for playoff contention. Backseat to receive Cox's kick, Cliff Harris, along with Mike Montgomery and Charlie Waters. The kick is taken at the goal line by Harris up the middle to the 15, to the 20, and down he goes after running a 60-yard kick back some 20 yards. He was tackled on the run back by Terry Brown of the special teams for the Vikings, and Dallas has the ball for the first play of the game just past their own 20-yard line. Mark it actually at the 21, Dallas is 21, where they're back. Roger Staubach quarterbacking. The running backs are Robert Newhouse in now for the injured Calvin Hill. Walt Garrison running out of the fullback position. The wide receivers, Drew Pearson, flankers, Bob Hayes, the split end, and Billy Joe Dupree, the other receiver, the tight end. Dallas up to an I formation to start things today. Newhouse backed by Walt Garrison. They go to a setback position, slot back formation right. The handoff is given to Newhouse. He spatters over the left guard spot, gains about 2 yards. Jim Marshall coming up from that right end spot defensively for Minnesota makes the stop. As Andy mentioned, a lot of experience up front of that front wall for the Vikings. Marshall, the Ohio State veteran in his 14th campaign. Alan Page, a Viking all the way for 7 years. Gary Larson, the former Ram, 10 years in the game. And also Carl Eller, of course, a 10-year veteran, anchoring the left side. Now, they have to be careful with a pass rush against Staubach. They just can't commit themselves either defensive line. They have to be a little cautious with their pass rush when you're going against Staubach and Tarkenton. The I formation, they stay in it. The pitch back to the tailback, Newhouse going wide to the right. Gets a block to the 25 to the 27-yard line. Blaine Nye was the pulling guard on the right side through a key block, and Newhouse gets about 4 or 5 yards.
Now, that's the kind of play that's not supposed to work against the Minnesota defense. The theory on beating them is to go straight at them. And when you try to run wide, those great ends that they have usually pinch it off. So Dallas now faces, as a result of that play, a first key situation here.
Jeff Wright, the strong safety, was the man who came up to get Newhouse on the far side of the field after a gain of about 4 yards. It makes it now 3rd down and 4 to go for the Dallas Cowboys. And here's the first 3rd down conversion attempt of the ball game. As Dallas is set, they line up in an I formation. As Mike Montgomery's come in to replace Robert Newhouse in that backfield now. Walt Garrison, the other running back, back to the air for the first time. Chased out of the pocket, running for yardage to the 30. He's up to the 35 and has a first down for the Cowboys. Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker from Stanford, was up to make the stop, but too late as Staubach saw that open room ahead of him, and Roger will take advantage of that in a hurry. As the Vikings stopped him at the 35, Jeff Seaman, and it's first down for Dallas. A gain on that run of about 8 or 9 yards on the play for Roger Staubach. He was set to pass, but then saw his opening and took advantage of it. First and 10 for the Cowboys, converting their first 3rd down try today. They shift into a power I now out of it. In motion comes Drew Pearson. The handoff is given to Newhouse back in place of Montgomery, and he's still right at the line of scrimmage. Wally Hilgenberg came up from the right side. Wally had that great game against the Redskins last week and makes his first tackle today.
Don, that play was typical of what the Cowboys have been famous for years, and that's a lot of razzle-dazzle in their offense. There are 2 theories about it. Of course, it can confuse the defensive team. There are times when it basically might even confuse the Cowboys a little bit. That time they had a wide receiver in a three-man backfield and rolling out to the left side.
Here's Dallas up the line of scrimmage, running out of the I formation. They will sometimes shift as they do into a pro set now. Newhouse to the left side. Staubach going back to throw for the first time. Shoots it over incomplete. Intended for Walt Garrison coming out of the backfield, but had stopped and taken more or less of a safety bounce pass, that time from Staubach. His first pass of the game is incomplete. So that'll make it third down and long yardage for the Cowboys now. Third and 10 at their 35-yard line. They started this drive at their 21, picking up the one first down on Staubach's 8-yard run. And now it's third and 10 for the Cowboys. Change up front for the Vikings as Bob Lichtman in there for Gary Larson now. And here's a big play for Dallas on the verge of losing ball control. Mike Montgomery's come in for Robert Newhouse now. Harrison and Montgomery, the running back. As Staubach goes back to pass. Good protection. Throws it 15 yards, but incomplete. Way over the head of the Minnesota bench, as a matter of fact. And so the Cowboys are forced into a kicking situation. Their first drive going about, call it 14 yards out from their 21 to the 35. And in the kick will be Marv Bateman for the Cowboys. He's averaged about 41.5 yards per kick this year. This is his second season in the National Football League. He's improved this season from a 38-yard average in his initial campaign after kicking 48-yard average at his alma mater at Utah. All set now. Back to receive. Bobby Bryant, single safety. The kick from the 36-yard line. Downfield to Bryant, calling for a fair catch at the 25. And there it'll be a first down and 10 after a 39-yard kick from Marv Bateman. Minnesota has the ball for the first time today. The Vikings will start this from their own 25-yard line. Their backfield offensively will be Fran Tarkenton, of course, the quarterback. His running backs are Chuck Foreman and Oscar Reed. The wide receivers, John Gilliam, flankers, the split end, Carroll Dale, the tight end, Stu Voigt. As they're lined up now to set back, in close behind Tarkenton are Reed and Foreman. Split to the left is Dale, Gilliam to the right. Calling his signals. Tarkenton has the ball, hands off to Reed over the left side. He gains about 4 or 5 yards, ended at the 30-yard line, hit by Bill Gregory, who's in there as a starting tackle, and that's significant. Bob Lilly is not starting today. Bob, after playing 182 straight regular season games, of course that record is still intact into the playoffs, but he had played 182 straight regular season games. He's been painfully hurt with a hamstring muscle pull and unable to answer the call today. Whether or not he'll see some service later on, that of course remains to be seen. Here's Minnesota, 2nd and 5 at the Vikings 30-yard line now. As Gilliam comes wide right, Dale is out left. Calling his signals, Tarkenton hands it off in a cross butt. Foreman going against the grain to the 32-yard line, coming from left to right, and hit by Dave Edwards, the strong side linebacker, keying off Stu Boyd on the right side of that Minnesota line, and he was there to make the stop after a gain of 3 yards, and it's 3rd and 2 now for the Vikings. So the first time they've been faced with a ball control situation, the Vikings had a 3rd and 2 at the Minnesota 33-yard line. We're just about 4.5 minutes into the action at Texas Stadium in Irving, and the score 0-0 between the final two remaining teams for the National Football Conference Championship. In motion comes Foreman now. Tarkenton rolls out right on 3rd and 2. Throws to Foreman. Caught and out of bounds at the 39-yard line. Chuck Foreman comes out to get a first down on the receiving end of the first pass thrown from Francis Tarkenton. And it will be 1st and 10 for the Vikings at their 39-yard line.
And on the passing plays, it's significant that Tarkenton threw to the right side rather than the left side. They almost never test Mel Renfro, who is so good as the right cornerback that he really doesn't get that much work. So they threw on the right side where they had Charlie Waters in coverage.
Charlie, of course, had that great game last week, Andy, against the Rams, and horse-collared Harold Jackson in that one. Here's Tarkenton ready again. Normal spread at either end. Running back set behind him. As Tarkenton has the ball, drops back 2 steps, throws left, and hits John Gilliam out of the left side for about 10 yards at about the 48-yard line. John Gilliam, who this past season represents a deep threat and caught 42 passes.
And on Renfro, too, Don. I just got done saying they don't go against him, but they got to let him know
They said they'll show you, huh? A gain of 9 yards and makes a 2nd down and 1 now for the Vikings. Approaching midfield, they're 2 yards short of it, having started this drive at their own 25-yard line. So they've quickly moved it 23 yards in this spotted Dallas defense. has all it can handle at the moment. The Vikings, for the first time, are setting strength to the receiver to the right side with a slot back formation. Gilliam and Dale in the hole. Calling signal Tarkenton, going back to pass again. Looks downfield, throws 130 yards to Dale, and incomplete. Over Carroll's head, running alongside him, Cornell Green, the strong safety. Here's a veteran who hasn't missed a game in his 12 years, 168 straight for Cornell Green. And he, too, had a great performance and was instrumental in the victory for Dallas over the Rams last week. 8 years a cornerback, and then for the last 4, lines up with a strong safety and keys off the strong side of the opposition. As Carroll Dale comes out now, and Doug Kingsrider is in for the first time today. All-American from Minnesota, hometown product, as he comes in now as a tight end, along with Stu Hoyt. Power play for the Vikings, lined up with setbacks behind Tarkenton, going for short yardage, 3rd and 1. The dive is good for Oscar Reed, who's over the midfield stripe by about a yard, and Minnesota, faced with a 3rd down situation on 2 occasions, has turned them in both cases into first down. Stopping the play right through the middle was Leroy Jordan, the 11-year veteran of the Dallas Cowboys. He's the fellow who gets the Cowboys fired up there, and they're going to have a little more of that now. Kingsrider, after serving his duty as a tight end there, in a tandem with Stu Voigt, now moves out of the lineup, and Carroll Dale, the receiver, comes wide right, as the Minnesota wide receivers will flip-flop, and that's what they've done now. Dale is right, and Gilliam is off the left side. Tarkenton has the ball, is back to pass. Good protection, throws 145 yards downfield and incomplete over the head of John Gilliam down the 5-yard line. Mel Renfro and Cliff Harris double teaming on Gilliam, and it was over John's head. As I mentioned a moment ago, he's a deep threat. He'll run more streak routes than he will fancy patterns for you. He's got 154 yards for a touchdown this year, and 42 passes this year, and he was the #1 receiver, but that time he was overthrown by about 2 feet. As this game unfolds, it's going to be interesting to see how successful Gilliam is, because what the Dallas defense did last week was take Harold Jackson, the Rams top receiver, out of the game. He had only 1 reception. Gilliam, of course, is the leading receiver for the Vikings. Clock has consumed about 6.5 minutes here in Dallas. We have no scores yet, as Minnesota has it at the 49-yard line of the Cowboys. 2nd and 10. Normal spread at either end for the Vikings. Tarkenton to the air again. Throws 15 yards downfield and caught on the far side by Jim Lash. But he is receiving. They're ruling it incomplete, out of bounds on the far side. No, that is complete, just inbounds and for about the 10 yards. It'll be a first down for the Minnesota Vikings on a gain of about 11 yards for Jim Lash taking the pass from Franz Tarkenton. I think the crowd misinterpreted that, too. They started to boo, too. Yeah, it happened right in front of the Dallas bench. Incidentally, Don, we've just received a note that this is the first time in his pro career, regular season or postseason, that Lilly has not started a game. Whether or not they're missing him, Minnesota's finding holes up front, but right now going to the air mostly as Tarkenton is ready. He hands it off to Foreman, getting a block by Reed, turns the corner at the right side past the 35, and gets down to the 31-yard line before Cliff Harris, coming up from his free safety, and left cornerback Charlie Waters got him at about the 30-yard line. That's a gain of 9 more, and the Vikings are moving at will now through this Dallas defense. That time, the handoff given to Chuck Foreman. He got a block from Oscar Reed running out in front of him. Foreman, who averaged 4.5 yards per carry this year. He's a great receiver. They'll throw to him. He's #2 receiver, as a matter of fact, behind Gilliam, and represents a real breakaway threat. That's something the Vikings in recent years have not enjoyed as much as they have now in Chuck Foreman, playing in his rookie campaign out of Miami. Here again, the handoff is given this time to Reed. He goes past the 30 down to about the 27-yard line, and that's a pickup of some 3 yards. Another first down for the Vikings. They needed only 1 and got about 3.5. Down to the 26-yard line. The tackle made by Dede Lewis from that weak side linebacker post along with Bill Gregory. And it's 1st and 10 for Minnesota now, just short of the Cowboys' 26-yard line. Minnesota started this drive, to refresh your memory, back at the 25-yard line. They've advanced the ball now 49 yards in a sustained drive. No score yet. 8 minutes gone in the game. As Tarkenton is ready now. Has a wide split and a setback behind him. Brings Gilliam in a bit from the left side. As Brand has it, gets off to Reed. Bucks over the right side. Gets past the 25 down to the 21-yard line, where Cliff Harris is the man who's got him. Oscar Reed, the #1 rusher on this Minnesota team this year. Nothing new for Oscar. He led the nation with collegiate rushers back in '66. This is his 6th campaign. All 6 years, of course, as a Viking.
No doubt a little surprising to see the Cowboy defense give up this much yardage on the ground so early. They obviously don't have it together yet. During the regular season, they were the second best defense against rushing in the conference.
As again, here comes Minnesota, now slotting left. Putting the strength of the receiving to the wide side of the field. Fran Tarkenton at the 26-yard line, 2nd and 5. The handoff is given to Foreman. He batters his way over the right side through the grass with Leroy Jordan and gets down to the 23-yard line. Chuck Foreman again carrying that time. Chuck has the ability to hit the hole quickly. He gets a fast start back there, and they'll line up very close in behind in a tight formation behind Tarkenton. He is certainly, you have to say, Andy, that here you have a prime candidate for the National Football Conference Rookie of the Year honors in Chuck Foreman.
Well, I think he'll probably get it simply based on the fact that he's playing on the best team as far as the rookie candidates are concerned. Incidentally, we've got the tight ends in there again, Don, as we have a close yardage situation here.
It's 3rd and 1. Minnesota's converted 2 previous third down tries to first down. Tarkenton has it, gives off to Foreman. He slides off the left tackle and possibly got the yard. It looks like he has the first down. Chuck Foreman stopped by Jeff Pugh, the veteran left tackle, and Larry Cole beside him at left end. And coming up from the secondary was Cornell Green. It may be close enough to force a measurement. It'll either be fourth down in inches or first down, of course, for Minnesota. This was their 3rd try to keep ball control on 3rd down possession. And it looks from here as if it may be short by Andy. You are about 2 yards closer to the field than I am, or by about 6 inches, huh?
Now the Vikings have an interesting choice to make, and it looks as though they're going to go for it. Cox does not come on the field. And so the Dallas defense is going to be challenged here on a 4th and inches situation. This is not your standard coaching strategy, we might add.
Well, certainly Minnesota is throwing it right at the Cowboys and telling them we're not afraid of you now, and we'll see whether it works. As here's Tarkenton ready on a 4th and 6 inches at about the 18-yard line. Tarkenton, a long count, possibly with an audible. He has it hands off to Reed, and Reed batters his way to the 15. He stops up in midair. It's Rodrigo Barnes, who's in there as a 5th linebacker for the moment, and we'll see whether or not he got that yardage. It appeared as if he did get it, but they're going to have to measure. You mentioned that defense, Andy, and over the last 7 games of the regular season, this Dallas defensive unit allowed a total of only 64 points as the Cowboys won 6 out of their 7 games. The 14-7 loss to Miami, the most points scored by the opposition during that span. And here is Minnesota starting from their 25-yard line and not slowed down until this moment, but not enough so there to prevent the first down. And Minnesota gets the first down at the Cowboys' 16-yard line.
Don, the purists don't put that down under 3rd down conversions. I guess you have a separate category for that one, but that's got to be the key play of this game so far. Sustaining the field goal and going for more.
We'll certainly have to credit Minnesota with, they did make it on 3rd, but on 4th, and we'll say on 3 occasions now, forced with ball control situations, they've converted. It's first down to the 16-yard line for the Vikings. Lined up now are Reed and Foreman in behind Tarkenton. As Fran has the ball, he's going back to pass, looking downfield toward Gilliam, and it is overthrown in the right corner. That's Jim Lash going deep on the play in the corner. Running a flag pattern, Jim Lash. It is incomplete. Charlie Waters was covering on the play, and that'll make it a 2nd down and 10 of the 16.
Don, you know we've got 4 minutes and 26 seconds left here in the first quarter, and there hasn't been a timeout yet.
We'll take just time for a moment here, Andy. Ourselves, besides those of you listening throughout the United States on CBS Radio, Andy Mustard and I would certainly like to send our special greetings to those listening around the world through the worldwide facilities of the American Forces Radio Network. Ships at sea and our service personnel just a little closer to home today with this broadcast, and our best wishes for a happy new year wherever you are. Here's Tarkenton now, faking an end around. Now throws a pass. Caught by Reed, clear to the 10. He's down to the 8-yard line. As coming on the end around that time was Carroll Dale. Just a short little brush hand fake by Tarkenton. Little play action on a delay, and then throwing out to the left side and completing it to Oscar Reed, who was clear for about 5 or 6 yards, and finally was bumped down at about the 8-yard line after gaining 8. It'll be 3rd and 2 now for the Vikings.
Now, that looked like a play right out of the Dallas playbook, didn't it?
Yes, it is. Fran using a little trickery down there to let the defense flow in the opposite direction to which he would ultimately move. Chuck Goodrum has now come into the lineup offensively. As for short yardage, 3rd and 2. Tarkenton at the Dallas 8-yard line. Calls his signals now. Minnesota converting 3 for 3 ball control plays as the handoff is given to Reed, and the fly cone as he bursts into the end zone. But it would appear to be there's been no signal. There's a penalty evidently against the Vikings. The Dallas line on the left side, Andy, apparently knew what that had been, and they didn't even bother to go after Reed.
I don't know who it was, Don, but there was holding in the offensive line of the Vikings. It was probably either Sunday or Yari on the right side.
So there's a key move on the part of the Dallas Cowboys as far as breaks are concerned. Although it happened so quickly, as Reed went by, nobody bothered with holding him down, and it's a 15-yard penalty against the Vikings, who takes the ball back to the Dallas 22-yard line. We're to be long yardage, third down, and about 16, 17 to go for the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to spot that ball at the 23. So Fran Tarkenton has his wide receivers back in after using tight ends. John Gilliam and Terrell Dale are back in now. We have about 4 minutes and 15 seconds to go, first quarter. The NFC Championship at stake and the Super Bowl berth that goes with it. We're all set. Tarkenton, third down and 17 to go. As Fran looks over a 5-man front, linebacker plugging for the Cowboys. Here's Tarkenton being chased back. He's in trouble, and he is hit for a loss back to the 38-yard line. Harvey Martin and Jethro Pugh putting the rush on Tarkenton, threw him at the 37, a loss of 14 yards on the play. And there is the key defensive move of the day, as Dallas, getting a break on the holding penalty against Minnesota, then capitalizes on it and forces the Vikings into a field goal kicking situation on fourth down. Fourth down and 31, and Cox is ready to kick. He, this year, has so far hit 21 for 35. The kick is on its way, has good range, and it is good. And Cox kicking one from the 42-yard line. That's his longest effort of the year. And Minnesota scores first this afternoon. We've got a timeout on the field. The score, the Vikings 3 and the Cowboys nothing.
Well, it was quite a drive by the Minnesota Vikings, a drive which ate up almost 9 minutes of playing time in the first quarter. And you got to think whether or not that scoring play negated that drive later on, just a few moments ago, actually, when Dallas was not able to hold Minnesota. And that's one of the plays that is a very important aspect of football. Early in the ball game, you get a key play like that, you go out and challenge the defensive unit, and it can go either way. It's a chance, because if they hold you, well, then the momentum goes to the defensive team. But in this particular case, the first time on that short yardage situation, Minnesota did get the first down, but they wind up with only 3 points out of it. And as far as Dallas is concerned, the Cowboys did their job on defense with that 14-yard sack of Tarkenton. And this should prove to be a fairly wide-open football game, because both Tarkenton of Minnesota and Staubach of Dallas like to scramble around. It's going to be a tough afternoon for the defensive unit.
So it's Minnesota drawing first blood on that scoreboard, and 3-0 by virtue of a 44-yard kick by Fred Cox officially. And Andy, if Dallas looks back on this ball game in its early stage, they had trouble defensively, but got the big break on the holding penalty now officially assessed to Ron Yeri of the Vikings after the Vikings had penetrated to the 8-yard line, a distance of 67 yards on that first drive, and Dallas is, I'd say, fortunate to get away with 3 points against them there. Here's the kick coming down the goal line, taken this time by Charlie Waters. He brings it back up to about the 15-yard line, and Jeff Wright knocks him down, and there to be first down and 10 to go for the Cowboys. They're going to mark that ball at the 18-yard line, where it'll be first and 10 for the Cowboys at that spot.
Both coaches said yesterday that the key factor here is, of course, avoiding mistakes, and they fall into two categories. One labeled turnovers, giving the ball to the other team, and the other, the major penalties. So far, we haven't had any turnovers, but we do have the major holding penalty, which, although the Vikings lead the game, it may well have cost them 4 points.
And here we go now as Dallas comes up the line of scrimmage, this time shifting out of the setback into an I formation. As Staubach has the ball, drops back in the pocket, throws a pass 20 yards, but over the head of Drew Pearson, the intended receiver. Pearson, who of course had that key play against the Rams, an 83-yard touchdown pass and run effort. One of 2 touchdowns for Pearson last week. You may wonder about that name, Drew Pearson. Drew's father admired the columnist, and, of course, there's the connection. Drew Pearson. It is second down and 10 to go for the Cowboys now. They're lined up at the Dallas 18-yard line. Minnesota with that four-man front. The linebackers in tight now as Staubach has the ball, hands off and through the middle. First Walt Garrison, but doesn't get very far. Gets up to about the 20, rather going to mark it at the 22-yard line. So a gain of 4 yards and makes it now third down. Third and about 6 to go for Dallas. This will be the third time today that the Cowboys have had a third down situation. They were able to turn them into first downs on one of the previous 2 tries. It's third and 6 now at the Cowboys' 23-yard line, about 22 and a half. Coming wide to the left side is Drew Pearson. Moving out now is Bob Hayes to set up the slot. The backs go back into an I formation. Hayes goes in motion left to right. Here's Staubach going back to pass, looking toward Hayes. Throws the ball. He's got it at the 30-yard line. First down, Dallas. As Bob Hayes goes out of bounds after taking it at about the 30-yard line. Steps out to 32, chased out by Paul Krause, who's the most experienced member of the Minnesota secondary. Ran him out. He's fourth all-time in NFL interceptions, and Staubach respects him, but threw clear to Bob Hayes. And a fellow named Staubach has got to feel an awful lot better now. That's his first completion of the afternoon. It's been a tough season for Roger. His mother died only a few weeks ago, right prior to the St. Louis game. And at that time, Tom Landry began calling the plays once again for the Cowboys. Pearson left and Hayes right now. Set back to Newhouse and Garrison as Staubach gets off to Newhouse, and Roberts fouls over, breaks the tackle at the 35, goes to the 40, and down he goes at the 40-yard line. Newhouse with a great second effort. He has tremendous sense of balance, and you really got to pull him down. You just can't knock him off his feet. Jim Marshall was the man who finally nailed him at the 40-yard line after he was initially stopped, spun away at the 35 and got 5 more big yards, and makes it a gain of 8. Second down, and 2 to go for the Cowboys, who now are marching. The battle up front, an interesting one there between John Nyland, running head-on into Alan Page. And that could control the line of scrimmage when these two forces are against each other. As here now, Staubach hands it off this time to Walt Garrison. Garrison through the middle. Doesn't get much. He needed 2, and he might have got about half of it. It's tough to double up on a man like Page with Eller and Marshall alongside him close by. And, of course, that's the problem that the Cowboys would have trying to block up front the rush of Alan Page. He gained a yard on the play, Reed did, so it's third down and 1 to go. Roy Winston coming up from the linebacker on the left side with Gary Larson making that stop. Newhouse has 4 carries now for 14 yards. Garrison 2 for 5. As here's Dallas now, the big play for the Cowboys, third and 1. They've converted 2 out of 3 previous third down plays. The handoff this side of Newhouse. He's got the yardage. He gets up to about the 43-yard line. As Newhouse got about 1.5 yards, maybe 2. He needed 1. And the Cowboys will have a first down at the 43-yard line. They started this drive at their own 18 on the kickoff after the field goal by which Minnesota leads this ball game. 14 minutes into the first quarter with 1 minute and 8 seconds to go in the first period in Dallas, where the score is 3-0 in favor of the Vikings. Staubach normally would have to only contend with that front 4 as far as the rush is concerned. The Vikings blitz, well, they stay an average of about 10% of the time. Otherwise, they keep those linebackers loose and depend on the front 4. Here's Staubach ready, rolling out right. Now looking through the middle. He's going to run with the ball and gets up to about the 45, hit from behind and powered forward to about the 46. Roger Staubach hit by Carl Eller. He played in 4 Pro Bowls, won the George Halas Award as the best defensive player in the NFL just a couple of years ago. A 10-year veteran, Carl Eller, stopped him at about the 45-yard line. So it's second down call, made a gain of 2.
A definite ad-lib play, Don, and actually Staubach had a little trouble with his own left guard, John Nyland, that time, who inadvertently got in his way.
Here comes Dallas at the line of scrimmage again now out of the I formation. Garrison and Newhouse running back behind Staubach. Normal spread at either end for the receivers. As here's the handoff and play up the middle goes to Newhouse. Newhouse carries, but not for much as Minnesota digs in with Gary Larson stopping that play. Gary is stopped at about the 46-yard line as time runs out in the first quarter. The gun ending the first period with the score here at Texas Stadium in Irving, Texas. The score is Minnesota 3 and Dallas nothing.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys finishing the regular season at 10-4, tied with the Washington Redskins in the National Football Conference Eastern Division. Both of them with a 10-4 record, but because of the point differential between the two teams in head-to-head competition, Dallas was declared the winner of the National Conference East for the purposes of alignment in the playoffs. The Cowboys beat the Rams in the first round of the playoffs 27-16, and the Vikings stopped Washington 27-20. So the Cowboys, champion of the NFC East, Minnesota, the champions in the Central. Minnesota finishing the season at 12 wins and 2 losses. The Cowboys lead the all-time series with the Vikings 6-1. Their last meeting, a 20-12 Dallas victory on Christmas Day in 1971. That was the first round of the Cowboys' drive to their world championship. The lone Minnesota win in the series, a big one, 54-13 in 1970, and that's the most points ever scored against a Dallas Cowboy team.
Well, we're starting the second quarter. Don Klein with Andy Musser here at Texas Stadium. And Andy, I'd say Minnesota certainly has the momentum of the first quarter with that drive, but this is certainly obviously anybody's ball game the way they're going at this point. Dallas showing a little offense, huh?
You know, Don, in the normal course of a football game, and it could happen yet, a team will get the ball an average of 10 or 11 times. And here we went through the first quarter, and Minnesota had the ball once. Now, if that continued, of course, they'd have it only 4 times during the game, and I wouldn't be surprised that'd be a record. And the Cowboys are only in the middle of their second possession right now, too. So we have indeed seen ball control here on a beautiful 60-degree day in Irving, Texas.
Cowboys went 14 yards on their first drive. Minnesota countering with a 67-yard drive. They got as far as the 8-yard line, but then were driven back with a penalty and a rush on Tarkenton that dropped them at the 37-yard line, from whence they kicked the 44-yard field goal for Fred Cox. Here's Dallas ready. Second quarter underway at their 46. Staubach going back to pass. Gets good protection in the pocket. Holds it out there complete to the 40-yard line of Bob Hayes. Hayes with a first down for Dallas at the Minnesota 40. That's a gain of 18 yards as Staubach threw a bullet to Bob Hayes, who caught it at the 40 in the grasp of Bobby Bryant coming up from the right corner spot. And boy, they have to be careful with him. He led the entire National Football League this year with his 7 interceptions. Bobby Bryant, 6-year veteran from South Carolina, on Hayes immediately. But Dallas, for the first time today now, is in Minnesota territory. They're at the 39. First and 10 to go. Minnesota 3, Dallas nothing. Here's Staubach ready, shifting his running back out of the set to the eye as he goes back to throw another pass. Throws it 20 yards down to the left side, and caught over there by Pearson. Might have been out of bounds. He was. Drew Pearson, the receiver on the far side. Bobby Bryant again on him, but that time the pass, although caught, was out of bounds. Staubach thereby throwing his 6th pass. He's completed 2 for 27 yards. Tarkenton has thrown 7, hitting 4 of them for 33.
And Staubach looking, despite a 2 out of 6 completion mark, down a lot better than he did toward the end of the Rams game last week, when he was admittedly dazed and said later he really didn't know exactly what was going on out there.
Dallas ready now, having moved this ball on this drive some 43 yards as they started back at their 18. Staubach this time fakes off and now hands to Foreman. A flag thrown on the play as to Robert Newhouse, rather. Newhouse taking that ball and going to about the 40. Game, well, you'd have to say nothing at all. When on the play, we'll see whether or not there's a penalty. However, a flag has been thrown and it could nullify whatever Newhouse did with it. Holding penalty against Dallas. Going to take them back 15 yards and back into their own territory. So there you have the first penalty of the day being marched off against the Cowboys, and for the moment, stunning their drive. Dallas this year averaged 172 yards on the ground, 167 through the air, and with a total 339 per game was the number 3 yardage gainer in the National Football Conference. Minnesota was 4th in that regard.
Now, the penalty was called against the left guard, John Nyland, for holding. So we've had 2 major penalties in the game now, one against each side, and they've both been of the same variety, offensive holding.
That makes it second down, and now 25 to go for Dallas. That's the Cowboy, just past the Cowboy 45-yard line. And Staubach puts the running back, Newhouse and Garrison in the eye, now splits them to a normal setback position. Pearson right and Hayes left. Staubach back to pass, runs out of the pocket, looking downfield. He is not going to throw, and runs out of time, and down he goes at the 48-yard line. Staubach had time to throw had he elected to do so. His receivers obviously too well covered. And then Staubach is inclined to do when he sees a little opening up there. There's a difference if you want to call them scramblers, and Tarkenton doesn't like us to say that he's a scrambler. He calls it part of his play pattern to give his receivers the time to get downfield and break off defensive coverage. In that case, Staubach, however, will look for that opening, and when he sees the opening, he's going for yardage. He's not concerned about giving his receivers time. As you're ready now, Staubach takes the backs out of the eye to the setback position. They are, in this case, Mike Montgomery in there. Going back to pass again, Staubach throws one about 35 yards downfield to Pearson, and incomplete. Drew Pearson, the intended receiver, Bobby Bryant on him like a blanket downfield again, the right cornerback covering Pearson. Rayfield Wright had a shot at, on the play, Rayfield Wright throwing a key block on it. It clears Staubach at the end for that pass. It'll be now 4th down. As for Dallas, that was the 5th third down play they've had today. And they have turned 2 of the previous 4. And now 2 for 5 on third down conversions. And back to kick for the second time today is Marv Bateman. His first effort went 39 yards. As Dallas moving from their 18 to the 48-yard line where their drive bogs down. Here's a fair catch being called for at the 13-yard line by Bobby Bryant. He takes it at the 13, and there it'll be a first down and 10 to go for the Vikings. That kick actually netting, referring field position to distance as far as the kick was concerned from Bateman. He gets 39 yards, and Minnesota will have the ball at the Vikings' 13-yard line. First down and 10 to go. The score 3-0 in favor of Minnesota. The clock showing about 13 minutes, 20 seconds to go in the first half of play here at Texas Stadium. As Minnesota will now be starting its second possession of the day. They had the ball, as Andy mentioned, only once in the entire first quarter, marching 67 yards. We've got a timeout of the second quarter with a score to repeat. Minnesota 3, Dallas nothing.
Coach Tom Landry of the Cowboys, and they have a 14-year record. Both Landry of the Cowboys have 108 victories, 80 losses, and 6 ties. And this is their 8th straight year in the playoffs. They've played in the NFC Championship game every year since the current playoff system was established in 1970. They won in 1970 and in 1971. This is Bud Grant's 7th year with the Vikings, and his career record is 70 wins, 25 losses, and 3 ties.
Not too much to separate these two teams so far. It's true that Minnesota leads the game 3-0 as a result of that long drive, but the Cowboys have looked impressive at times offensively too. And on the ball control situation, third down, Dallas is 3 out of 5. The Vikings are 2 out of 4, but they also have a 4th down conversion.
And here comes Minnesota now at the line of scrimmage to start their second drive of the day at their 13-yard line. Here's the fake handoff by Tarkenton. Play action pass. Thrown out and complete this time to Stu Boyd, the tight end. He's up to the 30-yard line and down to the grasp of Cliff Harris coming up from that free safety spot. Stu Boyd taking the pass, and it's good at the 30-yard line for about 17 yards.
Dick Butkus wrote a column that was widely syndicated in preparation for this game, and he felt that the quarterbacks were going to have to look more for their tight ends, and he felt that Stu Boyd was a good one. He said he's so underrated, in fact, that he isn't even famous for being underrated.
Tarkenton now, so far today, has thrown 8 times, has completed 5 of them, doing a great job. As Fran rolls out to his right side again, throws down the middle, and incomplete, intended for Chuck Foreman coming out of the backfield. Tarkenton, the second-rated quarterback in the NFC, headed only by Staubach, and Fran's 62% completion, 61.7 to be exact. Best in more than a decade in NFL competition for this great quarterback, Fran Tarkenton. So it'll be second down and 10 to go. Line of scrimmage is the 30-yard line of Minnesota. First time they got the ball, in case you just joined us, they marched 6 to 7 yards as far as the Dallas 8, thrown back by a penalty, and a sacking of Tarkenton, and then kicked a 44-yard field goal, Fred Cox, for the 3-point. The only scoring of the game so far. Second and 10. Here's Tarkenton handing off to Reed, and Oscar plows through the middle. Gets about 4 or 5 yards before he's tackled on the play at the 35-yard line by Leroy Jordan. Now rated as fine a middle linebacker, and perhaps the best in all of pro football. Leroy Jordan, 11-year veteran. He'll be playing in his 4th Pro Bowl game.
Now the Vikings make a change at wide receiver now, bringing rookie Jim Lash into the lineup, replacing Carroll Dale, possibly with the play.
He has great speed, a little faster, of course, than Carroll Dale, and a deep threat as they're ready. As Gilliam left, and out wide to the right is Lash. And Tarkinen throws over the middle, caught by Voigt. He goes down to the 42-yard line on the play. The tight end coming out of there. Voigt is used mostly as a blocker, but obviously, as you've seen now on 2 occasions, they throw to him 23 passes this year. He was the number 4 receiver for Minnesota. He's a great all-around athlete, Voigt. He won 8 letters in college at Wisconsin, 3 football letters, 3 in track, and 2 in baseball. To Voigt, 2 receptions today. And we're set as it's 1st and 10 now for the Vikings at the 43-yard line of Minnesota. Tarkinen has the ball and hands it off to Foreman. He got a big hole, cuts over the right side, past midfield to the 45 to 40, and down to about the 36-yard line. Chuck Foreman with a burst of speed through the middle, as we mentioned earlier. He gives the Vikings that breakaway threat. It was Ed White, the California grad and left guard, a 5-year veteran, opening up the hole, through which Foreman sped to about the 38-yard line. And it's going to be 1st and 10 for Minnesota, now at the Dallas 38-yard line. And so far, the momentum of the ball game by virtue of a 67-yard drive the first time they had their hands on the ball. And now by this one, that's moved from the 13-yard line of Minnesota to the Dallas 38. That is already a distance of 49 yards. And it's Minnesota carrying this ball game to Dallas. All set is Tarkinen now. Normal spread at either end. Setbacks going back to pass is Tarkinen. Throws one down the 20-yard line. Incomplete. Intended for Jim Lash. He's pumped up on the play that time by Charlie Waters. Just a year ago, it was Charlie Waters who broke his arm against Washington in the NFC game. And that time, it's Jim Lash who was hurt on the far side.
And Tarkenton forced into throwing a little sooner than he would have liked on because of a strong pass rush by Jethro Pugh, who got through without being blocked and was right there with Tarkenton. Well, timeout has been called in the field, and the score, Minnesota 3, Dallas nothing.
Minnesota coming up with those 3 points on a 44-yard field goal by Fred Cox in the first quarter. As you know, this game is being broadcast worldwide on American Forces Radio, and this is also being telecast to a number of areas, 212 stations in the United States, 295 stations, Puerto Rico, Canada, French language, pretty good coverage. In respect to that, and in relation to that, I've got a trivia question you won't believe. Who was the first person to ever complete a pass in a televised football game? The reason I bring it up is because funeral services will be held for the man who threw that pass, 56-year-old Albert Howard. He was the former Waynesburg College quarterback who threw the first pass completed in a televised game. That was 1939 with Fordham. Bobby Brooks caught the 80-yard touchdown pass, watched by a small television audience in metropolitan New York. Howard, a native of Waynesburg, died Friday in nearby Greensburg, Pennsylvania, after a long illness.
And we're keeping track of the clock, too, here, Don Klein, because the Vikings' last drive took up so much time. As we said, they had the ball only one time in the first quarter, and now this second drive of theirs has already consumed a little over 3 minutes.
Minnesota now lined up at the Dallas 38-yard line, where it is 2nd down and 10 to go. Tarkinen now has thrown 11 times. He's completed 6 of them, saw back 7 passes, and he did only 2 of them. Fran brings the Vikings to the line of scrimmage now. Setbacks behind him are Foreman and Reed. They hand off to give it to Foreman. Straight to the middle he goes, past the 35 to 30 into the 28-yard line. And gains about 10 yards on the play. As Tarkinen goes back to the ground with Chuck Foreman and sends him straight over the block of Mick Singlehoff along with Ed White on the left side of the Minnesota front wall. I mentioned Tarkinen throwing those passes, and quite a few today. On a relative basis to his season performance, he passed fewer times than in any other season of his 13-year career. His yardage was less, fewer interceptions, of course, and as a matter of fact had his lowest interception percentage mark and his highest completion mark. So Tarkinen, the peak of his career, as far as his percentages go this year. As Fran is ready and hands it off to Reed on short yardage, 3rd and 2. As Reed takes the ball and dives over the right side, the 2 tight ends were in, Doug Kingsrider along with Stu Voigt and Chuck Goodrum, to get as much power and moving off that ball and blocking for short yardage for Oscar Reed as they could possibly get. And he gained about a yard and a half, maybe 2 yards. They needed 2, and we'll see whether he got it. They're going to measure.
Don, we're in a similar situation here to that first drive of theirs where they apparently are going to face, they did not make it. They're going to face a 4th and inches situation. The inches appear to be about the same as they were last time. And when they had this situation in the first quarter, they went for it and made it. However, a holding penalty eventually set them back, and they had to settle for a field goal. But let's see what the Vikings' strategy is going to be. And, Don, it looks like they're going to go for it again. Fred Cox has not come on the field. But here comes Bill Brown into the game. Their veteran blocking running back, 13-year vet from Illinois, replacing Reed at the fullback spot.
He's the leading active rusher, as a matter of fact, for the National Football Conference. Veteran, 35 years of age, oldest running back in the NFL. He's in there now. We'll see. Fourth down, about 6 inches to go. A key play in the second quarter of this ball game. As Tarkinen looks over a 8-man punt for Dallas. The handoff is given to Foreman, and he's piled up right at the line of scrimmage. Remember, he'd only need 6 inches, however. His feet are that long, and if he could just step into that hole and get there, that's all he needed. He got a first down for the Vikings at the Dallas 27-yard line. Chuck Foreman through the middle on a key fourth down situation as the Vikings keeping control of the ball, and of course going for 4 more points if they can possibly get them than they would have settled for the 3.
And again, we just want to mention, Don, that this is not your basic book strategy. And this will be a point that will be much discussed when this game is over, and we'll be talking about it at halftime, by the way, with Jim Garrett, former defensive coach for the New York Giants.
Ready at the 27-yard line of the Vikings now. First down and 10. Tarkinen play action, fakes the Foreman, goes back to pass, goes to the 10-yard line. Incomplete. Intended for Oscar Reed downfield on a crossing pattern there with Carroll Dale coming out from the split end spot. And Oscar Reed, Cornell Green and Charlie Waters on the 2 of them. They converge to the 10-yard line where it is incomplete. It'll be second down and 10 to go. Tarkinen now 6 for 12 and 57 yards today. It's second down and 10 at the 27, and a drive that started back at the Minnesota 13-yard line. So you'll find that drive having consumed 60 yards so far, and as Andy mentioned, a lot of clock along with it. 5 minutes now. The clock showing 8:50 to go in the first half here at Texas Stadium in Irving. And the score 3-0 in favor of Minnesota, driving for more points now. Tarkinen calls the signal, second and 10. Brad hands off to Foreman. Chuck's got a hole through the middle, the 25 to the 21-yard line. Chuck Foreman going for another 5.5, maybe 6 yards before stopped by Larry Cole, the left end defensively, along with Cliff Harris, coming up from the secondary from the free safety spot. A gain of about, well, let's call it, let's be exact here because they're getting down where every yard counts. It's about 6.5 yards on the gain, and it's third down, call it 3.5 to go. Flash is okay. When he went for that pass a few moments ago, he was not injured. The wind barely knocked out of him. We're told that he's okay down at the Minnesota bench. Here comes Carroll Dale wide to the left side. John Gilliam goes wide right. Foreman and Reed, the running back behind Tarkinen now. 5-man punt for Dallas defensively at the Cowboys 21. Tarkinen back to pass. A gain of about, well, let's call it, let's be exact here because they're getting down where every yard counts. It's about 6.5 yards on the gain, and it's third down, call it 3.5 to go. Flash is okay. When he went for that pass a few moments ago, he was not injured. The wind barely knocked out of him. We're told that he's okay down at the Minnesota bench. Here comes Carroll Dale wide to the left side. John Gilliam goes wide right. Foreman and Reed, the running backs behind Tarkin and now. Five-man punt for Dallas defensively at the Cowboy 21. Tarkin is back to pass. Comes out of the pocket now, straight through the middle on the run, the 20, the 15, the 10. He's down to about the 9-yard line. First down for Tarkinen. Going on the play about 12 yards before Jethro Pugh got him. And that time, that was more of a stop-back type of run. Glenn Tarkinen saw the opening, saw the daylight, and he was not looking for any time for his receivers to shake defenders down there. He saw some yardage in front of him, and he went for it. He got it. Fran Tarkinen going 12 yards. First and the goal now. They're a foot past the 10-yard line. This, of course, the toughest place now to get a first down. Rather than say first at the 5 and 4 chances. Now they've got the 4 chances to get down to that goal line. They're 9.5 yards out. As Tarkinen calls his signals with a normal spread at either end. They hand off on the reverse. Reed coming to the left side, gets down to the 5-yard line. Oscar Reed set up as a running back right, then bucked over the left side on a cross buck. Mick Tingelhoff, after handing the ball to Tarkinen, cut out to throw a key block for Reed on the play. The number 1 rusher on the team in 1972, Oscar Reed. And this year, averaged about 4 yards per carry. It'll be second down now at the 5-yard line of Dallas as the Cowboys are rocked back on their heels by a drive starting back at the 13-yard line, netting the Vikings 82 yards in this drive now. They have but 5 to go to pay it off. Slot back formation left. There's the handoff going to the right side to Foreman at the 5. He's tackled and goes into the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota. As the Vikings score, Chuck Foreman going wide to the right after Tarkinen set his receivers, Gilliam and Carroll Dale, in a slot back formation left. Foreman going to the right. As they could not stop him, he's into the end zone for the score that makes it 9-0 in favor of Minnesota here at Texas Stadium, where we have 6.5 minutes to go in the first half of play, and it is Minnesota 9 and Dallas nothing. As Fred Cox, who hasn't missed a conversion this year in 33 tries, lines up and is set. Holding the ball for him is Paul Krause. Hands outstretched, the ball placed and kicked, and it is good. And Minnesota gets its 10th point of the day. We have a timeout on the field. The clock, 6:30 to go in the half, and the score now, Minnesota 10 and Dallas nothing.
A key block on that touchdown run by tackle Ron Urey. He's a 6-year veteran out of the University of Southern California, 6'5.5", 255 pounds, and clearing out that linebacker and enable them to get in for the touchdown. So the Minnesota Vikings taking advantage of the Dallas Cowboys in what had been anticipated as being a defensive battle, and actually it's been that pretty much, as there was a 3-0 score at the end of the first period in favor of Minnesota, and that came on a 44-yard field goal by Fred Cox, and now the touchdown and conversion makes it 10-0 in favor of Minnesota. A number of college football games on Saturday, 3 bowl games, and the East-West Shrine game. John Mosley of the Big 8 Missouri Tigers ran a kickoff back 84 yards to lead a 28-point Missouri second quarter uprising to help Auburn in the Sun Bowl. They beat Auburn by the final score of 34-17. We'll check other football games played in the college ranks on Saturday. Plus, we have a lot of college basketball tournament scores to report. We'll get those a little later.
As we're ready for the Vikings kickoff, as Fred Cox will be booting it away, that drive, it consumed 87 yards on the field. And how much on the clock, Andy? 6 minutes, 48 seconds, son. So we've seen excellent ball control exhibited by the Vikings here today. 2 possessions, 2 scores, and almost the first half. Here's Cox ready to kick off, and Dallas anxious to get something going. The Cowboys back deep into the end zone on the kick, and taking it out of there is Cliff Harris up the middle of the 15 to the 20, up to 25 to the far side to the 30, and up to the 33-yard line. A run back of 33 yards for Cliff Harris. Got a key block at the 25, which swung loose for some extra yardage, and Bill Brown was the man who brought him down. Let's break it here from Irving, Texas, at Texas Stadium for just 5 seconds for stations to identify themselves, this being the CBS Radio Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
And here's Dallas now. Dallas starting its third possession of the afternoon from their 33-yard line. Their best starting field position. There goes Hayes out of the slot to balance the receivers left and right. Here's Staubach handing off, this time to Walt Garrison. And Garrison gets up to about the 37-yard line, gaining 4 or 5 yards on the play. Of course, the big missing factor in the Dallas attack today, the absence of Calvin Hill. Out with that dislocated elbow, suffered in the Rams game of a week ago. In his place, Robert Newhouse. Normally, a backup fullback is running out of the tailback spot on that eye and running as a halfback in a setback formation. And, of course, you don't lose a 1,000-yard rusher for 2 campaigns, as Hill has been, without suffering something in your attack. Here's Dallas ready now. Second down and about 7 to go. A gain of 3. In motion goes Pearson, but stops. The handoff is given this time to Newhouse. And Newhouse goes up to about the 39-yard line before he's stopped by Carl Eller, the great defensive left end for the Minnesota Vikings, whose halftime inspirational talk of last week when the things weren't going well against the Redskins seemed to fire them up. And, well, maybe Carl can have halftime off for this one, Andy, huh?
Yes, of course, Bud Grant wanted to underplay that a little bit. He said the blackboard just happened to be in the way, but it's still, I think it's a freestyle blackboard record as far as his drop kick is concerned.
And here comes Dallas now at the line of scrimmage on a third down attempt to try to keep possession. They're just short of their 40-yard line with about 3 to go. Staubach back to pass. In the pocket is Bubble down the back of the 33-yard line. Staubach hit for on the play, lost on the play of about 6 yards. Hit that time by Gary Larson coming up in the left tackle spot. As Staubach waited just to travel too long to get rid of that ball. He wants to throw on that third down situation, and it's fourth down for the Cowboys now, and Mark Bateman will come in for the third time to punt today in 3 possessions.
And with the surrendering of possessions here, Don, the Cowboy rate now has dropped down to 50%. They've had 6 of these situations, and they've been successful only half the time.
All set now. Here's Bateman back to receive. A single safety, Bobby Bryant, waiting for the snap from center. Bateman gets his kick away. Bryant is going to call fair catch again for the third time and does so at the 25, and that will net Bateman a 42-yard kick on the play, where to be first and 10 to go for Minnesota at the Viking 25. This, coincidentally, is the exact spot at which they started their first drive today from their 25. In case you just joined us, quickly to recap for you, they drove it down to the Dallas 8-yard line at that point. And we'll give you the rest of that to give you the 10-point score for Minnesota in a moment. Timeout has been called on the field meanwhile. And with 4.5 minutes to go in the half, the score is Minnesota 10, Dallas nothing.
Checking those college football games on Saturday, as we told you, Missouri rolled over Auburn 34-17 in the Sun Bowl. In Houston, the hometown Cougars rolled up more than 600 yards in total offense to crush the Lanes 47-7 in the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl. Quarterback D.C. Nobles picked apart the Tulane secondary and completed 8 of 13 passes for 201 yards. The Cougars also ran for 402 yards against the Green Wave defense. The East took an early 14-0 lead and went on to trounce the West 35-7 in the 49th annual East-West Shrine Game in San Francisco. The East relied mainly on its running game, led by quarterback Norris Reese of Mississippi and Richmond's Barty Smith. Smith ran for 2 touchdowns and gained 79 yards and 15 carries. The 20th ranked Volunteers closed with a rush, but it wasn't enough, as Texas Tech beat Tennessee 28-19 in Jacksonville, Florida. Joe Barnes threw 2 touchdown passes and scored a third.
Minnesota now ready at the Vikings 26-yard line. Their third drive of the afternoon. Both previous efforts have netted them some points. 3 in the first one, 7 the second. And here's Fran Tarkenton ready, calling signals. As Gilliam left and wide right is Carroll Dale. Here's the handoff given to Reed. Oscar plows over the right side, past the 30, up to the 33-yard line where Bill Gregory pulls him down. A gain on that play of about 7 yards. I was mentioning the fact the Vikings on their first drive of the first quarter went to the 8-yard line, thrown back eventually by a penalty and a sacking of Tarkenton back to the 37-yard line of Dallas, from whence Fred Cox booted a 44-yard field goal for 3 points. That was with 3:45 left in the quarter. And then, capping off the 87-yard drive of a moment ago, Chuck Foreman raced in from the 5-yard line to make it a 10-0 ball game after the conversion by Cox. Tarkenton hands off to Foreman. Foreman batters his way over the right side again, over the guard, and picks up another couple 3 yards on the play. Chuck Foreman tackled by Leroy Jordan, the middle linebacker, along with Dave Edwards, spotted at the 37-yard line. Ball marked at the 37 with enough yardage for the first down for the Vikings. First and 10 now at the Vikings 37-yard line. The clock showing about 3.5 minutes to go now in the first half. Vikings' third drive. Dallas has had the ball 3 times. Their longest drive has gone 30 yards. They've had to kick on all 3 occasions. Marv Bateman forced into punting situation. Here's Harkin ready again. Normal alignment, the handoff to Foreman this time. He's still was charging through came Jordan on a blitz along with Edwards and Feud triple teaming to get Chuck Foreman that time before he could move. Going to spot it at the 38-yard line. Going to be second down and 9 to go after a gain of a yard for Chuck Foreman. Chuck, who is a great receiver as well as a running back in college. #1 draftee of Minnesota, and obviously they knew what they were doing back at those drafting tables last winter when they picked this fellow, Chuck Foreman. He's 11 for 60 now today, averaging better than 5 yards per carry. He went to 5 for the touchdown, of course. Here's Tarkin ready again. He's dropping back to pass on second and 9. Throws out of the right flat to Foreman, and Foreman's up to the 40-yard line. As I mentioned a moment ago, he was a receiver in college as well as running the ball, and that time takes a short flat pass and nailed immediately by Jethro Pugh and D.D. Lewis at the 40-yard line. So Dallas digs in defensively, and you can just feel this crowd around Texas Stadium start to clap and applaud and just say, let's get the ball now. It's third down, about 8 to go for Minnesota at the 40-yard line. Listen to this crowd come alive.
The way things have gone for the Vikings, though, Don, it doesn't matter if they don't make it on third down. They'll do it on fourth down. They've done that twice today.
As timeout is now being called. We've got an official timeout down the field now. That stops the clock. That is the 2-minute warning. That's the 2-minute warning to the benches. So a timeout on the field to repeat the score for you is Minnesota 10 and Dallas nothing.
Taking a look at some of the college basketball tournaments. In the Bruin Classic in Los Angeles, UCLA over Michigan 90-70 for the championship. San Francisco beat Wyoming 98-66 in the consolation. In the first round of the Maryland Invitational at College Park, Maryland, Maryland won the opening round game over Holy Cross 102-75. Boston College knocked off Michigan State 94-81. So Maryland plays Boston College Sunday night for that championship. North Carolina State beat Memphis State 98-83 to win the Sugar Bowl Classic in New Orleans. Louisiana State at New Orleans beat Villanova 81-80 in the consolation. Marquette over Wisconsin in a tight ball game, 49-48. Marquette comes up with a victory, a close shave for the nation's 6th-ranked team in the UPI poll. Marquette 7-0 at the start of weekly play. So Marquette wins the Milwaukee Classic Championship. Arizona beat SMU 86-82 for the consolation championship.
Along with Don Klein, Andy Musser at Irving Stadium, we have only Texas Stadium in Irving, I should say. We have just 2 minutes left here in the first half, and it's been an error-free ball game with the exception of a holding penalty on each side. We haven't seen the ball flopping around. There hasn't been anything even resembling a fumble so far. Not even anything resembling a near interception. It's been basically a low-key kind of game and a very interesting game.
And Andy, it might be a case here of Minnesota being one play away from their first punt of the afternoon if they fail to get a first down here. He's calling a signal. Franz Harkinen has his normal receiver spread at either end. The handoff is given to Foreman. He goes through the middle, past the 45, and maybe to the 48-yard line. If that's so, he's got a first down. And it would be the first down for the Vikings. It is a first down, the 48-yard line. As going through a hole, Foreman straight through the middle that time. He was tackled by Dave Edwards. It'll make it first and 10 to go for the Vikings, maintaining ball control here in the closing 2 minutes.
Well, that's for sure, Don. They're 4 out of 7, except that you can make them 5 out of 7 if you throw in the fourth down plays.
All set now, calling his signals is Tarkinen. He bootlegs out right now, runs out of the pocket. On his own now, throws his pass 20 yards, and incomplete intended for Jim Lash, who had gotten beyond, in that case, Cornell Green, the strong safety, had an opening, but the ball was just deflected out of his reach. And it'll be second down and 10 to go. That stops the clock with 1:19 to go in the half, and Minnesota with a 10-0 lead. And he mentioned turnovers and the complete... so far in this ball game, the complete lack of them. There have been none. Dallas was second in the NFC this past season with a plus 13 in their favor in turnovers. Minnesota was fourth in the conference with a plus 10. Dallas giving up the ball 41 times, or rather 28 times taking it away, 41. Minnesota 36 against 26 in their favor. Here's Tarkenton ready now on a 2nd and 10. He hands it off to Oscar Reed. He goes through the middle and a step or two into Dallas territory. Might have gained about 3 yards before tackled on the play by Jethro Pugh. At the 49-yard line of Dallas, that's a gain of 3 yards and makes it 3rd down and 7 now for Minnesota. The clock in motion now. And, of course, as far as times out are concerned, neither club has used any, so each has 3 remaining. Speaking of Minnesota at this point, of course.
It'll be interesting to see what the Vikings are trying to do offensively here. Probably with a 10-0 lead, I would suspect that they're going to try just to get into field goal range.
It's 3rd down for them now, and 7. As Andy mentioned, 4 conversions out of 7 attempts on 3rd down today for the Vikings. As Tarkenton has the ball, a whistle sounds, and we may have had a delay. It is a delay against Minnesota. Too much time is going to cost them 5 yards. And that could be very significant because they are certainly on the fringe as far as the field goal distance is concerned. Fred Cox this year has kicked 21 out of 35 before this game. His longest was a 41-yard effort. And, of course, he is, well, where they would place up now for a field goal attempt. He'd be in need of about 20 yards yet to get within his best range of the year.
Clock stopped now with 34 seconds left on, and I would think that Tarkenton is probably changing the play in the huddle because it's a different situation now.
Clock 12. Cox's field goal of this game went 44 yards, 3 longer than his best effort of the season. And now with a single running back, a 5-man pattern downfield. The pass by Tarkenton, caught and out of bounds. John Gilliam caught that ball out of bounds right near the sideline. He was out of bounds at about the 37-yard line as Tarkenton was trying to get down into field goal range for Cox. And now with only 29 seconds left, Minnesota has a 4th down and 12. And into the ball game comes Mike Eyeshide for the first time this afternoon, the first time that Minnesota has been forced to kick. As this drive started at their 25, ends up at their 46. Golden Richards is back as a single receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Richards waiting at the 15-yard line as Mike Eyeshide gets a high kick for good coverage downfield, and Richards is going to let it go over his head. The ball is bounding for Minnesota coverage down the 6-yard line, and there Dallas with poor field position and no time left to speak of, only 19 seconds. Doug Sutherland was downfield to take Eyeshide's kick at the 7-yard line. So from the 46-yard line, that would be a good distance as well as placement for Mike Eyeshide. The ball bouncing to the 6. A 49-yard kick on the play. They're going to spot it at the 7, so that is actually a 48-yard kick for Mike Eyeshide. First time he's been forced into kicking duty today. 1st and 10 for Dallas. At their 7-yard line. Barely trying to run out the clock here with 19 seconds. The handoff is given this time to Walt Garrison, and Garrison takes it out to about the 8 to use up the remaining seconds. Only 12 left now. The clock in motion. Dallas does not figure on stopping it. They'll let it go. Wally Hilgenberg was the man who made the stop on that play, along with Jeff Seaman coming up from his middle linebacker post. And time running out here at Texas Stadium on the first half of play. And there it is, the gun sounding. The end of the first half in Irving, Texas, with the score, the Minnesota Vikings 10 and the Dallas Cowboys nothing. For the CBS Radio Sports from the CBS Radio Network back here at Texas Stadium in Irving, Texas, site of the NFC Conference Championship battle between the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. And the score at the end of the first half after a Minnesota field goal in the first quarter and then a touchdown in the second is the Vikings 10, the Cowboys nothing. Just to give you a quick recap in case you joined us a moment ago, to give you the yardage figures, to show you that not only are the Vikings ahead on that scoreboard by the 10-0 margin, but they also have a decisive lead on the yardstick as well. They have gained 117 yards on the ground against the Cowboys 43. They have gained 45 yards through the air on 8 completions and 14 tries for Fran Tarkenton against Roger Staubach's 18 yards through the air, throwing 7 times, completing 2 of them. That totals out 162 yards for the Vikings and 61 for the Cowboys. And using those figures at a time when I'm about to introduce our next guest here at halftime, and Andy, what's your game plan for the second half, huh?
Well, thank you, Don. That's a nice plug. You know, of course, my game plan isn't quite as important as what it's going to be for the Dallas Cowboys offensively, or maybe the Minnesota Vikings defensively here in the second half. The Vikings now will be receiving the kickoff to begin the second half of play today, and it'll be the first kickoff that they've received today. So we're watching Tony Fritsch tee it up at the 42-hour right for the Cowboys. And the Vikings, wearing the visiting uniforms with their blue traveling suits on here today, are on our left. And we're watching now Charlie West and John Gilliam go back deep. During the season, Gilliam was the top kick returner for the Vikings, returning 10 of them for 174 yards. Vikings leading 10-0, and we'll see whether they go after it here or whether they protect their lead here in the second half. And there was a whistle as the kick occurred, and they're going to nullify that kickoff. Kick seemed to be a good enough one and went deep onto the right side. It probably would have been Gilliam's return, but the whistle was blowing as the kick was made. And it's difficult to know exactly why, unless there's a commercial on television or something. We still don't have the signal on that one, but at any rate, we know they're going to kick it off again, and there's no penalty involved here. Again, Fritsch's kick will come from the 40-yard line, so we just had a bit of a false start here in the second half. And it looks as though there is some material still on the field down here at the 10-yard line. And when I say material, I want you to know that that material has something to do with a sort of a residual effect from the halftime show here, if you know what I mean. And we have an artificial surface at Texas Stadium which doesn't absorb that thing very well. All right. Thank goodness we know why. Here's Fritsch's kick, and it's a high end-over-end job that is being taken by Gilliam on the 2-yard line. Slants up to the 10, the 15, gets out across the 20, and is buried at about the 22-yard line by Les Strayhorn and also Mike Montgomery. Now the Cowboy fans begin to chant for their defensive team. You know, in the divisional playoffs so far, the home team has not yet lost. And we'll be anxious to see what happens here today and also in the later game today between the Oakland Raiders and the Miami Dolphins. The winners today go to the Super Bowl 2 weeks from today. Oscar Reed and Chuck Foreman are the running backs. From the 22-yard line, the Vikings have possession. Tarkenton over Tingelhoff, waiting for the snap. And the handoff goes to Foreman, and he is stopped almost in his tracks. Foreman will pick up a yard to the 23 as he hits straight up the middle. They'll make it second down and 9 yards to go. Foreman today has 70 yards rushing on 12 carries and a touchdown. He has also caught 2 passes good for 8 yards. Carroll Dale is coming out wide to the right side, and they send Gilliam off to the left on a second and 9. Running backs are split. Tarkenton back into the pocket. Throws low out to the right side. Incomplete for fullback Oscar Reed, who was bumped hard as he came out by Dave Edwards. But the pass was actually underthrown by Tarkenton, bringing up a third down situation. Tarkenton today is 8 out of 16 for 59 yards. In third down conversions, the Vikings 4 out of 8. But it actually goes to 6 out of 8 if you include the 2 times that they didn't make it on third, but went ahead and got them on 4th down. Minnesota at its own 23-yard line. 3rd and 9. A slot right formation. Oscar Reed, the lone running back. Tarkenton almost. He drops the ball on the snap, and it looks as though the recovery has been made by Minnesota, in which case they will have to punt. Tarkenton dropped the snap, and the Dallas defense has done its job. The Vikings now will be forced to punt for only the second time today, and the first time came with only 19 seconds left in the first half. Mike Eichscheid is the punter. Golden Richards is back in a single safety for Dallas. He'll be standing at his own 37-yard line. Eichscheid takes the ball at his own 8 and gets it away, but it's not a very good kick. Bouncing short of midfield. It goes out of bounds on the Minnesota 48-yard line.
Andy, I think if there was anything that was very clear in the first half, it was the lack of mistakes in the ball game. There were no turnovers, but already Minnesota, with a 10-0 lead, has had two miscues. The first one of relative insignificance when Parkinen bobbled that third down play at long yardage. But there, Mike Eyeshine gets off a poor kick, and Dallas will try to capitalize now on great field position, the best they've started to drive this afternoon. Roger Staubach, who has gone the distance at quarterback, though his passing today has been only 2 of 7 attempts, brings the Cowboys out in the I formation. Now sending Bob Hayes in motion to the right as he takes the snap, fakes the running play into the line, and passes complete out on the left side to Robert Newhouse. However, the gain on this play is, there is no gain. There's going to be a loss despite the completed pass, as the ball will be spotted back at the other 48-yard line, meaning exactly a loss of 4 yards. Wally Hilgenberg, right linebacker, comes in to make the play, and he hit Newhouse hard and knocked the feet right out from under him. Second down, 14 yards to go. Hilgenberg actually reading that short screen to perfection. He went all the way for the pass. He was not worried about what anybody in the running backs were doing, Andy. 12:47 left in the third period. This will be a running play to Newhouse as he tries to barrel off right tackle, but he gets only to midfield. Carl Eller, famous Minnesota left defensive end, makes the stop there after a pickup of 2. It now becomes third down and 12 yards to go. On third down situations today, the Cowboys are 3 out of 6. Newhouse and the Cowboys cowboy. Walt Garrison are the running backs. Drew Pearson is the one wide receiver. He'll be on the left side this time, and Bob Hayes will be on the right. Third and 12. Staubach to look for it in the air, looking to his left, firing long down the left sideline for Pearson. It is caught by the Vikings. It is intercepted by Bobby Bryant, who leaped in front of Pearson and took the ball away. And the Vikings will have it at their own 3-yard line on the first turnover of the day. Now there's a pause in the action with the score. The Vikings 10 and the Cowboys nothing.
Later on, the reigning Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins will try to get the jump on the Oakland Raiders. That's the last obstacle for the Dolphins in a chance to repeat as Super Bowl champion. The game in Miami will decide the American Conference Championship, and the winner plays the Super Bowl against the winner of the Dallas-Minnesota clash. A hard basic football game is expected in that contest. During the regular season, Oakland and Miami stood 1-2 in total defense. To take the parallel even further, Raiders quarterback Ken Stabler and his Miami counterpart, Bob Greasy, ranked 1-2 in conference passing. The big rushers for the Dolphins are Mercury Morris and Larry Zonka, while Clarence Davis, Charlie Smith, and Marv Hubbard share the Oakland running chores. That should be a very interesting football game indeed from Miami, Florida, a game which will be broadcast later in the day over many of these same AFRTS stations. The Minnesota Vikings 10-0 over the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get back to Andy Mucker.
With 11:57 left in the third period, the Vikings have gotten the game's first break as Roger Staubach has tossed up an interception. However, for the Vikings now, it's going to be difficult as they will work in the shadow of their own goal line. And this is no place to make a mistake on their part, or the Cowboys could easily take it in for a score.
Actually, Andy, you know, that being a third down situation, had that ball been batted down instead of intercepted, the Cowboys would have forced the kick, and Minnesota could have enjoyed better field position. This might be a break the other way for Dallas if they can hold it here.
Let's see how it goes. First play is a running play to Oscar Reed, the sure-handed fullback, who slants slightly off to the left and does get it out, indeed, to almost the 5-yard line.
Today's episode is brought to you by ThisDayInTheNFL.com. Celebrating football's greatest moments, one day at a time. Listen to classic broadcasts, explore historic games, and keep the legacy of the NFL alive at ThisDayInTheNFL.com.
To the unfile, but they put it at the 4, so make it a pickup of 2. As Jethro Pugh and Bill Gregory combined to bring him down. Second down, 8 yards to go. Cowboys have 4 first downs today. The Vikings have 13. In rushing yardage, Minnesota 119, Dallas 45. Passing yardage 45 to 14 in favor of the Vikings. Second and 8 at their own 4-yard line, the Vikings. And Foreman gets the carry and slants off to his right side, but picks up only a yard as he brings it out to the 5. The Vikings now immediately facing a third down ball possession play. D.D. Lewis, who is playing despite a fractured thumb, made the tackle from his right linebacking position. Cowboys not able to score today. Vikings with a field goal in the first quarter, a touchdown in the second period. And if they have to punt from anywhere near here, you know Dallas is going to get the ball in good field position. 3rd and 7 at their own 5-yard line for Minnesota. Running back to a split as Parkinson drops back into the end zone, fires out to the right side. It is incomplete. He was looking for Gilliam, but actually the ball was thrown out of bounds, and Gilliam had no chance to catch it and stay in. And so, we're going to see a Minnesota punt now by Mike Eichscheid, and he will not have as much operating room as he would like. He'll be backed up right against his own end line. And if a punter steps out of the end line trying to make one, that's a safety. The ball to be snapped from the 5-yard line. Golden Richards is a single deep safety for the Cowboys, but he is short of midfield. He is standing at the Minnesota 45. Eichscheid has stepped inside the end zone, gets a high snap, and hurries his kick, but under the circumstances makes a brilliant kick. Backing, Richards way back up to the 38-yard line of Dallas. Here he comes back to midfield. He's at the 45. He is heading down the left sideline. He is going to go in for a touchdown. A Dallas touchdown despite a brilliant kick by Mike Eichscheid. Bill Gregory gave him a key block along the left sideline on a great run by Golden Richards, which will cover approximately 62 yards.
Tremendous effort by Golden Richards, and as you indicated, Andy, a tremendous pressure kick effort by Mike Eichscheid. He kicked that ball from the end zone. Richards was backed up to his 40-yard line where he caught it. That kick carried about 65 yards in the air, and then the great run back by Richards, cleaning off the near sideline as blockers pulled away.
Here is Tony Frick to try the extra point with Morton holding. The extra point is good, and so the Cowboys are very much back in the game. A timeout on the field with the score: the Vikings 10, the Cowboys 7.
Well, that's one thing that can happen on a punt like that when a punt receiver is forced back to chase a football, and he got off a tremendous punt, as Andy Musser explained. But the pursuit coming downfield spread out quite a bit, and Richards just took that ball down the left sideline and was in for the touchdown. So a big break for the Dallas Cowboys as that pass intercepted by Minnesota at its own 3-yard line, and the Vikings were unable to get anything going. So that punt coming out of there, a good punt, but unfortunately that really doesn't make much difference because Richards returned it some 60 yards for the first score of this ball game for the Dallas Cowboys. Minnesota scored first, a 44-yard field goal by Fred Cox in the first period, and then Fran Tarkenton hit Foreman on a 5-yard touchdown pass to make it 10-0 Minnesota. That was the score at the end of the first half. But now in the third period, Dallas has rung the bell. It's now a 10-7 ball game.
Certainly, Andy, if Golden Richards doesn't sleep quite as well tonight, or all the excitement, you can excuse him. This rookie from Hawaii has 4.5 speed running a 40, and he turned on the after blazer that time and down the field scored his first touchdown. That's the first touchdown he scored.
During the regular season, Don, neither team ran a kickoff or a punchback for a touchdown. And here in what becomes the 16th regular season game, we're seeing one. Fritz to kickoff. Charlie West and John Gilliam back deep, and it's West dropping the ball at the 5, now picking it up to the 10, 15, 20, leaping at the 25, and he is stacked up in midair at the 25-yard line by John Babineaux, the linebacker from Villanova. Vikings getting possession now at what will be marked closer to the 26-yard line. We have 10 minutes and 1 second remaining in the third period. Chuck Foreman and Oscar Reed are the running backs. Parkinson out over center. And the crowd is really inspired now, trying to cheer on the Cowboy defense. Parkinson rolling to his right. The pass complete to Foreman. He's out to the 30. He's across the 30 and knocked out of bounds at the 34-yard line by Charlie Waters, the left cornerback for Dallas.
Andy, I think there'll be some post-game speculation now revolving around that interception by Bobby Bryant, who is the NFL's leading interceptor this year. Remember when he could have possibly, of course, he had to fight for that ball and actually couldn't be sure whether or not the receiver was going to catch it, but had he happened to pat it down, it would have been a fourth down kick for Dallas, and Minnesota would have had better field position instead of where Eyeshine was kicking from the end zone.
At their 34, the Vikings face a 2nd and 2 as they send Foreman in motion to the right. Parkinson hands off to Oscar Reed. He breaks the hole up the middle, gets across the 40 and to the 45-yard line as the Vikings have had one of the better running plays of the afternoon. Strong safety Cornell Green called on to make the stop, but not in time to save a first down for the Vikings. Parkinson in passing today, 9 of 18, good for 53 yards. Mark the ball now at the 46-yard line of the Vikings as their drive continues. So good was their ball control in the early moments of this game that they had it only once in the first quarter. They still lead by 3 points. 4 yards shy of midfield. Foreman coming in motion to the right. Parkinson dropping back and rolling to the right, looking long, way down deep. It is to Gilliam. He's got a touchdown. A long touchdown to John Gilliam. A play that covers 49 yards. Makes that 59 yards. The play was beyond midfield as Gilliam springs free on a fly pattern on the left side. And the Vikings have scored in a hurry. Well, after a relatively calm first half, we've had an explosive beginning to this second half. Cox to try the extra point with Paul Krause holding as the Vikes go up 16-7 on the long touchdown from Parkinson to Gilliam. And the extra point is good. There's a pause in the action here in Irving, Texas, with the score now, Minnesota 17 and Dallas 7.
Anyone placing a bet on Secretariat the last 2 years almost always had a sure return. But for the syndicate, which paid $6,800,000 for control of his future life, a question has come up. Reports say the Triple Crown winner and stablemate Reva Ridge flunked preliminary fertility tests. Not so, says William Taylor, manager of Claiborne Farm, where Secretariat was bought last month after becoming the first horse in citation to capture the Triple Crown. Taylor says, I'm almost sure the Secretariat has got one of our test mares in foal, and will have confirmation on her pregnancy in about 10 days. Secretariat's owner, Mrs. Penny Tweedy, says the only reason the 2 horses have not yet passed their fertility test is because of the need for absolute verification dictated by the huge sums of insurance money resting on the outcome of those tests. So while that story might get a few worldwide snickers, it's pretty darn serious business to Mrs. Penny Tweedy and Claiborne Farms.
Well, Andy, John Gilliam certainly corroborates what we said earlier of him, posing the tremendous deep threat that he is. And bear in mind that he beat out Mel Renfro and Cornell Green. They're combined between them 22 years of professional football experience. In that secondary, they were on him, double teaming, down deep on the run, and Gilliam simply out-sprinted them, took the pass perfectly thrown by Tarkinen and back into another 10-point lead.
Cox sets for the kickoff, and he really booms this one. It goes out the back end of the end zone. Unable to make a fielding play on it back there was Cliff Harris, and so it'll be a touchback, and the Cowboys will take over at their own 20-yard line. That was the best kickoff we've seen so far today. 9 minutes and 2 seconds remaining in the third period, and after having seen only 10 points scored in the entire first half, we've already had 14 points scored here. Well, that's the way the football bounces, and now the Cowboys, who a moment ago thought they were right back in the game, and of course, indeed they are, and their crowd was all stirred up, now have to come back and get that one back again as they start at their own 20-yard line. Staubach splits his running backs, and the formation is strong to the right. Now coming in motion to the left side is Hayes. Rolling out right after faking to Newhouse, and a pass complete to Billy Joe Dupree. Dupree has the first down. As he gets out to the 40-yard line, a 20-yard completion. Saw back to his tight end, the rookie Billy Joe Dupree, who caught 49 balls during the year and scored 5 touchdowns. Nate Wright, the left cornerback, and left linebacker Roy Winston combined to bring him down. And the Cowboys keep moving. Strawback, 4 out of 10 for 34 yards, and that was a 20-yard completion right there. Cowboys come out of the I formation, strong right. Now they switch out of it. And Strawback does not look to hand off this time. Dumps it out on the right side to Gene Fugit, the tight end. And Fugit gets to the 38-yard line, so there will be a loss on that play. Carl Eller, defensive left end for the second time, has come in to force a yardage loss despite a pass completion.
Andy, the crowd still buzzing, of course, for Dallas Cowboy fans down below on that punt return. And we've just been advised that was the first punt return for a touchdown by a Cowboy since 1968, regular or postseason play. 5 years since that has happened, and it certainly fired up the Cowboys, but Minnesota nevertheless got that touchdown right back.
Second down and 11 yards to go for the Cowboys at their own 44. Dropping back is Strawback, firing it out. He completes it to Garrison out of the backfield. And Garrison breaks the tackle, gets across the 45 and gets to midfield. Garrison did that all by himself. Jeff Seaman eventually stopped that play, but he broke a tackle which would have caused the Cowboys for the second consecutive time to lose yardage despite a pass completion. And now they will bring the chains in, which are being kept here in the second half on the near side of the field, to find out whether the Cowboys have their second first down of this drive. The ball is at midfield. And it looks like they're going to be a little short from the way we view it. That'll bring up a third and inches. Well, in the first half, we saw the Vikings twice in this situation go for it and make it. Let's see what the Cowboys do here, trailing as they are, 17-7. They're going to go for it, all right, and they have the extra tight ends in for blocking. Both Billy Joe Dupree and Gene Fugit are in the lineup for the additional blocking. The ball is placed at the Dallas 49-yard line. Running backs are split. It's a tight formation. Newhouse over left tackle. He's got the yardage for the first down. He breaks the tackle, gets down to the 35, and is now stopped at the 32-yard line of the Vikings. What a run that was, as he was seeking only the yard for the first down, and he winds up making about 19. Bobby Bryant and Nate Wright finally stopped that play at the 32-yard line of Minnesota, a 19-yard carry.
You know, Andy, if you ask Robert Newhouse, he'll tell you my second effort is the big thing for me. Well, I wonder what he says about that one, about his fourth and fifth and sixth efforts, huh?
And so the Vikings, who lead this game 17-7, are finding a few crinks in their defense. This is the best Cowboy drive of the day. It's down to the Viking 32 as again Hayes comes in motion to the left. Slanting through the hole is Newhouse, and he's not getting much this time. Jim Marshall, defensive captain and right end of the Vikings, brings him down at the 31, calling a pickup of 1. Second down and 9 yards to go. Newhouse today, 10 carries, good for 42 yards. He's filling in, of course, for Calvin Hill, a mighty tough project. Hill, for the second consecutive year, went over 1,000 yards. Just did beat out John Brockington for the NFC rushing championship. 5:41 left here in the third period. And the Cowboys need to score here. Hayes swings in motion to the right side. From the I formation. A flip coming around Fugit. A flag is down. Fugit is down to the 29-yard line where he is swarmed under. The tackler is led by Alan Page, the right tackle. But on the far side of the field, a flag was thrown. In the first half today, we saw only 3 penalties. A 15-yard holding penalty against each team and a 5-yard delay of the game penalty against the Vikings. And this was going to be a motion penalty called against the Cowboys. Now they're discussing with the Vikings whether it will be accepted or not. Motion in the backfield has been declined. So the play stands and it becomes third down. There was a slight gain on the play, but the Vikings decided to take it and move it to third down, forcing the Cowboys into a ball control spot here on 3rd and 7. That's the Vikings' 29-yard line. Staubach is getting his plays called for him from the bench by Tom Landry. Montgomery is in the backfield now, number 23, Mike Montgomery. He flares out to the right as Staubach is going to shoot for him, and he hits Montgomery at the 22-yard line. Montgomery breaks the tackle, goes to the 17-yard line where he has the first down. A key play for the Cowboys as the Vikings forced them by refusing the penalty into the third, and the Cowboys called their bluff and made it. At the Minnesota 17, new life on a first down.
Andy, that's 2 for 3 third down conversions now on this drive, and Dallas changed club. Maybe somebody threw some blackboards around in the Cowboy dressing room, huh?
And surprising how our interview at halftime, Jim Garrett predicted that the Cowboys would come out and be a different team in the second half. Staubach has completed 4 passes in a row. Hayes again in motion to the right in front of the I formation. Hand off to Newhouse. Newhouse planting and getting down to just shy of the 15-yard line where Jeff Seaman run him down. Call it the 16. And it'll be second down and 8 yards to go as the clock continues to run. And we have 4 minutes and 16 seconds left here in the third period. The first half was calm compared to the things we've seen here in the third period, where we had the game's first turnover, and we had a 54-yard punt return touchdown. Second and 8. Cowboys are strong right. It'll be a quick hitting play with Newhouse not getting much at all. Taking the handoff, stopped by Wally Hilgenberg as he gets back all the way to the line of scrimmage. So now, again, the Cowboys faced with a tough situation, and you know they don't want to have to settle for a field goal here, trailing as they are by 10. With 3:37 left in the third, they desperately want to convert this one. They'll have a 3rd and 9, and they're only 16 yards away from touchdown territory. Montgomery again is in the backfield. He is a converted running back, but probably will be set out in a flare position as we had seen before as they take Newhouse out. Garrison is the other setback. 3rd and 9. Staubach back. Sends everybody out. Now decides to run. Gets to the 15, stumbles, and goes to the 9-yard line, and he will be 2 yards short of the first down. Staubach could not pull it off this time. And I'm almost certain that the Cowboys will go for the field goal here. And yes, Tony Fritsch is running onto the field. It will be Fritsch's first try of the day. And with the snap to be made from the 10-yard. But probably will be set out in a flare position as we had seen before as they take Newhouse out. Garrison is the other setback. 3rd and 9. Staubach back. Sends everybody out. Now decides to run. Gets to the 15, stumbles, and goes to the 9-yard line, and he will be 2 yards short of the first down. Staubach could not pull it off this time, and I'm almost certain that the Cowboys will go for the field goal here. And yes, Tony Fritsch is running onto the field. It will be Fritsch's first try of the day, and with the snap to be made from the 10-yard line, this will be an attempt of about 17 yards. Craig Morton will set it up. There will be just a slight angle to the right side, but with the hash marks as close together as they are now, that really isn't too much of a factor, and it will come from 17 yards out. Fritsch is a sidewinder who made 8 of 28 during the year. Here's the attempt, and the 17-yard field goal is good. So the long Dallas drive produces 3 points, and the score now reads the Minnesota Vikings 17 and the Dallas Cowboys 10 with 2 minutes and 21 seconds left here in the third period.
Well, Andy, that obviously is Dallas's certainly their best effort offensively. They show that they can move the ball against that Minnesota defense. They started that drive, perhaps you remember, from the 20-yard line in their own territory and moved it before it bogged down to the Minnesota 10 at distance of 70 yards before settling for the 3-point. And at this point, Dallas is back within touchdown comeback range. as they get set to give the ball back over to the Vikings. And before the kickoff here from Bridge, let's pause 5 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the CBS radio network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
At 790 and 1420, this is American Forces Radio.
Money here today or not, but as far as what these fellows are playing for, well, a minimum of about $10,500 for the winner. When you consider the fact that the winner here will take home $8,500 against the losing portion of $5,500, there you have your difference of $3,000 in this winner or loser situation here. And by winning, of course, they're assured of the Super Bowl payoff. The minimum there would be $7,500. So you win this ball game, and you can look across the other side of the line and say, I got $10,500 more out of it than you did.
Now, as Tony Fritz gets set to kick off, we have Gilliam and West back deep, and it's going to be a tough play if it comes to West because he's in the sunlight, and it does. He runs to the shady side of the field at the 10, 15, 20, to the 25, hit at the 30, but gets across it, and will be stacked up right at about the 30-yard line, as the Vikings will have pretty good field position to start their drive late in the third quarter. 2 minutes and 11 seconds to go for the National Football Conference Championship. The fourth consecutive year that the Cowboys have been in this game, and the 8th consecutive year that they've been in the playoffs. What a record they have, and they have dominated this individual series with Minnesota, as a matter of fact, winning 6 of the 7 times they have played. Those were not all championship games, including regular season games in there, too. Foreman and Reed are the running backs at the 30-yard line as Minnesota takes over. Sending Foreman in motion to the right side, where the wide receiver is Carroll Dale, and the pass comes out to Foreman complete, gets across the 40, and is dumped at the 42-yard line, and it will be a first down for the Vikings. Leroy Jordan and Cliff Harris getting together to make the stop, right at the 42-yard line, and the Vikings strike quickly. Their long play was a 54-yard touchdown pass, Tarkenton to Gilliam, earlier in this period. The long play of the day for the Cowboys was a 63-yard punt return touchdown by Golden Richards. From their own 42, first down. Again, Foreman in motion, swinging to the right. The handoff to Reed. He leaps as he reaches the line of scrimmage and gets out to the 45-yard line. Dave Edwards, Cowboy linebacker, the 11-year veteran from Auburn, there to make the stop after a gain of 3 yards. Second down, 7 yards to go. The Super Bowl comes up 2 weeks from today, and we'll have it for you here on the CBS Radio Network. It will be played not that far from here in Houston, Texas at Rice Stadium. And the kickoff will be at 3:30 Eastern Time for the Super Bowl. It'll be the winner of this game against the later game today, Oakland at Miami. The running back split as Tarkenton comes over Tingelhoff on a 3rd and 7. To Foreman, dancing outside on the right. He is stripped of the ball as he reaches midfield. It's loose, and the Cowboys have recovered the ball. Charlie Waters knocked the ball away, and Cliff Harris takes the recovery. Dallas gets the ball. The first fumble of the day. Second turnover of the day. Bryant had made an interception of a stallback pass earlier.
Andy, Tom Landry said in the press conference yesterday that mistakes will determine the outcome of this game. There's enough talent on either side. It's a standoff. And then it's the fellow who makes the miscue of the moment. Maybe the intercepted pass, and in this case, the fumble. Dallas gained great field position. They are now 38 yards away from a tie ball game.
They're taking over at the 37-yard line of the Vikings. And the running backs are split. A fake to Newhouse into the line. Rolling left is Staubach. The pass is it intercepted? It was tipped into the air, and the Vikings have picked it off. Middle linebacker Jeff Seaman took it off the fingertips of Billy Joe Dupree. Bobby Bryant on a good hit that time, and Seaman was able to pick off the pass. I knew he could get the ball. The only question was whether he could stay in bounds, and we have now seen, after a first half which produced no turnovers, back-to-back giveaways. And so, very quickly, it's the Vikings ball at their own 26-yard line. How about the turnarounds in this game? None in the first half, and the ball is bouncing around like a basketball here in this one. Only 34 seconds left in the third period. At the 22-yard line. Parkinson is scrambling around, and he is trapped behind the line of scrimmage by D.D. Lewis. That's the second sack today for the Dallas defense. One in the first half, one here in the second. This one goes back to the 17-yard line. And they have lost 18 yards on the two traps.
That, of course, is one of the Cowboys' rushing tactics that paid off during the year. A total of 40 times they got to the opposing quarterback. And, of course, that puts Minnesota now in a hole with second down and 15 to go back at their own 16-yard line. And Dallas itching to get their hands back on that ball again.
Clock running now, and we may see one more play this period with 13 seconds showing and running, and then again we may have seen the last play. At any rate, it's a 7-point lead by the Vikings, and I think they want to go from the other end of the field because they are allowing the clock to expire, and we have seen the end of the third period. That's the end of the quarter with the score. Minnesota Vikings 17, Dallas Cowboys 10.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys saw a pretty good chance of scoring there, but Staubach had that pass picked off. And this is one of the things that Minnesota coach Bud Grant feels that Dallas has maybe a slight advantage, and that's in the recent playoff experience.
Dallas is a fine football team. They have been in the playoffs now for a number of years. This getting in is not that important for them. And yet, really, at one stage in the schedule, when Atlanta got hot, but this is in the playoffs, so they're thinking down the road. I mean, they're looking at, not being there, but winning. And I think it's an important attitude to have. There was a time when they said when they were in the playoffs, they didn't, just win the final game, and it's time to do that. Nice to win the Super Bowl. We haven't done that, but we've been in the playoffs now 5 of the last 6 years.
That was Minnesota coach Bud Grant. Now let's get back to the final 15 minutes of the NFC Championship game.
With Don Klein, Andy Buster at Texas Stadium in Irving. We've reached the final 15 minutes, but we want to remind you now with the possibility of a tie, and we have that with a 17-10 lead favoring the Vikings going into this period, that there must be a winner in this game. And if it isn't decided in regulation time, it will be in post-game time. There will be a sudden death playoff after a 3-minute break. It will continue actually in 15-minute periods. There would not, however, be a halftime should we go longer than 2 periods, which has never happened in professional football. But there will be a winner here today because this game must produce the representative for the Super Bowl 2 weeks from today. Vikings are back with the ball now at their own 17-yard line, and they have a 2nd and 15. We've seen some crazy plays here in the second half. Back-to-back interceptions after a fumble. Seaman got an interception for the Vikings and got the ball right back again after Foreman had been stripped of it. Doug Foreman and Oscar Reed continue at running back for the Vikings. Both quarterbacks have gone the distance. Fran Tarkenton brings his team out now. Running backs are split, and Fran wants the pass. Looking right, looking left, now scrambling. He has been sacked for the 3rd time today. He is dropped back at the 9-yard line as Harvey Martin was the first man to reach him. The rookie from East Texas came back in to sack Tarkenton at the 9-yard line. And a yardage loss for Minnesota, a total of 27 on the 3 sacks. Now, 3rd and 23. And if they don't do something about it here, the Cowboys are going to get the ball in good field position. We said that before, and it turned out to be a punt return touchdown. 3rd and 23 for the Vikings. Tarkenton going to send everybody out this time. He's got one running back, but he is actually way out on the left side. He's firing out to the right, and it is intercepted by Waters. Charlie Waters intercepts the ball at the 24-yard line. And the Cowboys are only 24 yards away from tying the game.
So Charlie Waters has come up with a big play now for the Dallas Cowboys to give them tremendous field position here as Minnesota, the victim of its own mistakes, fumbling on their previous drive. They got it back, of course, on Seaman's interception, but perhaps they'll not be as fortunate this time.
From the Minnesota 24, they have great opportunity now. The running backs are split for Dallas. Wide to the right comes Newhouse. The flag goes down as Newhouse hits the right side of the line. And he is stopped short of the 20-yard line. But let's await the outcome of this penalty call here. And it looks like it's going to be motion, I believe, against Dallas. Hold up on that, though. We have 14 minutes and 21 seconds left here in the final period. Illegal procedure is called against Dallas. And they're going to step off 15.
Cowboys, Andy, have always been a band of opportunists, and certainly to have been given the ball by Minnesota now twice. First at the 37-yard line, and now at the 23-yard line. If they don't capitalize and get some points out of these two big breaks, well, this will be the first time in a long time that Dallas has given up such golden opportunities.
A 5-yard penalty was assessed against Dallas, so the ball is at the Vikings' 29-yard line. And it remains first down, but first and 15. Way back and Staubach, and he is dumped almost to midfield. A big defensive play by the Vikings, and it was Wally Hilgenberg, the right linebacker, who came back to make that play. They parked the ball at the 45-yard line, stopping the roll of Staubach, but that was one of the big defensive plays of the day. Here were the Cowboys in possession of the ball at Minnesota's 24, and on two successive plays, they've been knocked back to the 45-yard line. And that, my friends, is defense. Two traps for the Vikings, good for a yardage loss to Dallas of 25. Second and 31 for the Cowboys at the Minnesota 45. At the moment, it isn't even good field goal position. Dallas down by 7 points. Staubach back, better protection this time. Trying to get out to Mike Montgomery. He comes out across midfield and is now down to the 41-yard line. Montgomery returning it to what now will be marked at the 42-yard line of the Vikings. Jeff Wright, the strong safety, the homegrown product from Minnesota, making the stop. Well, we still have a critical situation here for the Cowboys. It's 3rd and 28. And were they to gain nothing, there would be a 49-yard field goal attempt coming up here, which would still leave them trailing the game. Dallas out of the I formation. Clock running with 13:16 to go. Staubach makes the running play. Steps up. The ball is knocked away from him. I believe it flew out of his arms in a forward fashion. It was recovered by Gary Larson, and it's going to be a Minnesota ball at the 45-yard line of the Vikings as they roll that a fumble.
We've got a monitor here, and watching it on the replay, it didn't appear as though Staubach actually had his arm in motion. And if that's the case, of course, and so it's ruled, it's a fumble, and Minnesota recovers and takes over. We've got a timeout here in the field, 13 minutes to play in the game, and the score, the Vikings 17, the Cowboys 10.
I think that's one of the interesting aspects of football. As you've been following this game all the way along, you'll know that it was virtually an error-free first period, first half, I should say, from the standpoint of fumbles or pass interceptions. But now, things are really getting shaky for both teams here in the second half. Question of whether or not it's the pressure or whether things like this just happen, which they do in pro football games. And if that's the case, things are looking pretty tough here. But so far, Minnesota has the lead, 17-10.
Andy, you've got to say here at the standoff, as far as mistakes are concerned, we've had 4 turnovers in the last 4 possessions, as it all started, of course, when Cliff Harris recovered Chuck Foreman's fumble at the Minnesota 37-yard line. At that point, Dallas could do nothing with it, though. Jeff Seaman intercepting Staubach's pass. Minnesota back on the attack again. Again yielding is Charlie Waters. Picked off Fran Tarken's pass, and twice, with great field position in Viking territory, the Cowboys could do nothing about it. Taking over at the 23-yard line, they've gone backwards to the 44, where Staubach trying to pass, and the question will remain, of course, That's one of those judgment calls that an official has to decide. Was his arm coming forward? Was the ball knocked out of his hand before his arm came forward? They say the latter case. Minnesota recovers the fumble, and they have regained position with not bad field position themselves at the 44-yard line in Viking territory. Still 7 points for the good.
So now it's up to Tarkenton to try to pad this lead, which is still a risky 7 points at this stage in the fourth period. Hand off to Oscar Reed, slanting wide to the right and getting a few yards as he moves it out to the 48 before he is stopped by Jethro Pugh. Oscar Reed has been one of the big ball carriers for the Vikings here today as they've tried to do the job on the ground with Foreman and Reed. And on this play, he gained 2 yards. Second down and 8 yards to go. I just can't get over the change in this game in the two halves. And I also have to mention again that it was more or less predicted by our halftime guest, Jim Garrett, who said he looked for the Cowboys to come out and stir things up in the second half, and they've done just that. Minnesota 2nd and 8 at their own 47. The ball is dropped by the Vikings. Foreman dropped the ball. Larry Cole made the recovery. Foreman fumbled the ball, the second fumble of the afternoon for Foreman, and the recovery was made by Cole. Boy, I tell you what, it's getting tough to keep track of all these turnovers. So now Dallas has the ball in Minnesota territory at the 47-yard line, and the play in recent moments has resembled less than championship caliber.
The third field position now for Dallas at the 37, the 23, now the 47. Now will they capitalize on it?
Well, this is really something. Newhouse gets the handoff from Staubach, is still at the 45, but he rolls inside and will be given yardage to the 44-yard line of Minnesota. Carl Eller in on the tackle. Big Carl, 6'6", 247 pounds, and he's tough to miss out there on a football field.
Andy, as I mentioned earlier, the surprising element about these turnovers, the fact that the Rams were best in the division with a plus 18 in their favor. Dallas was second with a plus 13. In other words, takeaways against giving the ball up, and Minnesota was fourth in the conference. These teams normally don't have this kind of trouble.
The Cowboys going for what would be the tying touchdown with less than 12 minutes remaining in the game. It's a 2nd and 7 as Newhouse gets the ball, gets to the 40-yard line of Minnesota, and slightly inside as he is brought down by the two defensive tackles of the Vikings, Gary Larson and Alan Page. Prior to that carry, Newhouse had the ball 13 times for 45 yards today.
Well, you know, when you consider Miami and Oakland, they had played airless ball of late. I could just see them watching this game down in Miami and feeling, of course, that they're going to win. Both of those teams say they're going to beat the other, and they're licking their chops saying, wait till we get a hold of these fellows, huh?
Probably you're right, and yet you can't predict the ball bouncing around the way it has here in the second half today. 3rd and 2. Bob Hayes swings in motion to the left side. Staubach looking his way, fires to Hayes. It is picked off by Bobby Bryant. A clear pass down the right sideline. Bobby Bryant will put some icing on the cake for the Minnesota Vikings. A pick off for Bryant, and a touchdown return down the right sideline of an interception thrown by Roger Staubach. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turnovers here in the second half in this game.
In each case, Andy, possession meant the turnover 6 times in a row now for both sides. Bobby Bryant, Staubach throwing to the left side intended for Bobby Hayes, and he just didn't have enough on that ball. It was floating by the time it was picked off by Bryant. Remember, when you're throwing in his area, he has had more interceptions this year than any player in the entire National Football League in both conferences. He led the NFL with 7.
Fred Cox looking for the Vikings' 24th point, and he gets it. And so with 10 minutes and 51 seconds remaining in this game, the Vikings have now opened up a 2-touchdown lead. And it's been an incredible second half. The way the ball has been flying around, and I might say bouncing around, Texas Stadium here in Irving. Oh, this has really been something.
Well, you know, the Vikings now taking a 2-touchdown lead here, Andy, 24 points. That in itself is significant to have a 14-point lead. But I think of more significance is the manner in which they've done it. After that intercepted pass, good for 63 yards by Bobby Bryant, the Cowboys have to wonder because the Vikings have done everything possible to help them get themselves back into this ball game. yielding possession on 3 occasions in their own territory, the 37, the 23, and the 47. And what has Dallas netted out of those 3 turnovers? Now a -7 points. Because the moment they got the ball back on the 3rd turnover, the intercepted pass from Staubach picked off by Bobby Bryant, who races down without a hand laid on him, 63 yards. His 2nd interception of this ball game, plus the 7 during the regular season. And believe me, Minnesota has a commanding upper hand in this ball game. Anything can happen yet in the closing 11 minutes, but after Dallas was unable to capitalize on 3 big gifts, you have to feel that Minnesota has the momentum going their way now, ahead by the 14 points at 24-10.
At the moment, the Cowboys have 3 deep receivers. Harris in the middle, Waters on one side, and Golden Richards on the other. As Fred Cox places the ball on the tee at his 40-yard line and gets set to kick off. And the Viking defense, one of the toughest to burn in the league, will now have to show what they can do here. They can give up 1 touchdown. They can give up a touchdown and a field goal without the offense producing anything. Here's the deep kickoff going way to the left side. And because it is fielded in the sunlight by Cliff Harris, he decides to down it in the end zone and take the touchback. Dallas to move then from its own 20-yard line.
So if you like some long runs, you're enjoying this ball game. In this second half alone, we've had the 3 touchdowns, one being a 63-yard punt return by Golden Richards, and for Minnesota, the 54-yard pass, Fran Tarkenton, John Gilliam, and now the 63-yard interception pickoff TD run by Bobby Bryant for 63 yards.
Bryant has picked off 2 passes here today. Staubach to throw on first down, firing out to the right side. And his pass is complete to rookie Drew Pearson, who is bumped out of bounds at the 25-yard line by Nate Wright. Staubach today now is 9 of 17 for 68 yards, but the big mark against him is 3 interceptions. Second down, 5 yards to go from the Dallas 25. The attendance today is 60,272, so we've got 4,252 no-shows here today. The game is being televised locally into Dallas. Back shifting out of the eye now on a 2nd and 5. Going in motion is Newhouse way out to the left side. Staubach firing over the middle. It is tipped into the air, and it is picked off by Jeff Wright. The Vikings have the ball. Here comes Wright down to the 30-yard line, and the Cowboys can do precious little right here in this football game. Minnesota with another scoring opportunity as they have the ball as the result of the tipped interception at the Dallas 30-yard line.
That's 4 in a row now for Dallas, giving up the ball on the intercepted pass by Jeff Seaman and the fumble by Roger Staubach, and now back-to-back interceptions, yielding again to the Cowboys, to the Vikings. Bobby Bryant in the first case, Jeff Wright in the second, and now great field position for the Vikings at the Dallas 30.
Well, if the Cowboy defense should give up another touchdown here, we could just about say goodbye to the chances for the Cowboys in this one, as Oscar Reed gets the first carry and gains 2, slashing off left tackle.
You have to wonder what Roger Staubach is thinking now, Andy, in view of the statement he made after that game back in Washington, which we covered just a year ago. He said he'd work all of 1973 to make up for the 72 NFC title loss to the Redskins, a 26-3 loss, and he did work hard. And, of course, all of his efforts now coming to naught here this afternoon by virtue of interceptions that he must feel personally somewhat responsible for.
And in some ways, the Cowboys appeared to be the team with the momentum. They were 4-3 at midseason, but finished very strong. Chuck Foreman in motion to the right on 2nd and 8. Tarkenton slanting right now, decides to keep it, gets to the 25, hit hard and stopped at the 23-yard line. But somehow you don't worry about Tarkenton when he gets hit, because he has never suffered a disabling injury in his 13 years here in the pros. Last week he threw 2 touchdown passes within 65 seconds versus Washington to wrap up the divisional playoff game. He is, however, at this moment facing a 3rd and 3 situation. But a field goal here will also very much hurt the Dallas cause, because the clock continues to run. It shows 9:16 remaining, and as we speak, the Cowboys are already down by 2 touchdowns. Tarkenton has carried the ball twice today for 17 yards. 3rd and 3. sending Foreman in motion to the left. Both teams have used lots and lots of motion today. Tarkenton wanted to throw, scrambles left, scrambles right, decides to run again, and he will be trapped this time back at his own 27-yard line. As the Dallas rush gets to him for the fourth time this afternoon. Larry Cole led the charge this time. And now on a 4th and 6, Fred Cox will come in for his second try of the day. In the first period, Cox capped the drive with a 44-yard field goal. And here in the final quarter, he will try one from the 34, 10 yards shorter than his last one. His holder is Paul Krause. He will have a slight angle to the left. The kick is down. The ball is in the air, and Cox's field goal is good. A 17-point lead now owned by the Minnesota Vikings. With 8 minutes and 29 seconds left to go in the game, the Vikings appear to have the commanding edge by a count of 27-10 over the Cowboys.
Well, of course, it'll be Dallas going back on the offense here, and the question is now what they will do in the 5th possession they have enjoyed after the last 4, resulting in 3 intercepted passes and the fumble. And the question, will they hold on to it? I think there's one difference in the gets being given by both of these teams down below, and that is the fact that Dallas has gained great field position in Minnesota territory, but unable to do anything about it. Minnesota, when they intercepted that last pass and got possession by Jeff Wright's interception, they had great field position at the 30, but other than that, the earlier interceptions, as far as the Minnesota Vikings were concerned, they were still back in their own territory, and to that point have picked off the 63-yard interception run by Bobby Bryant in their own territory, and that time, given field position at the 30-yard line of Dallas, had to settle for the 3 points. So whether or not the Dallas defense, it's all relative at this point in yielding only 3 points. It makes it a 27-10 ball game, and Dallas would have to do more than merely get breaks. They'll have to put their offense back together and do so now in a short time remaining of 8 minutes, 30 seconds. Short relative to the scoreboard, which shows them down now by the 17 points.
One piece of disheartening news from the Minnesota side of things is that Jim Marshall has suffered a back injury, and he has been taken from the field to have it examined. So when the Vikes get back on defense, which they will shortly, we will not be seeing number 70, the defensive captain, in there. Cox kicking off. It's a deep kick. And, oh boy, Harris goes out of the end zone and into the sunlight trying to field that one, and there was no chance. And Fred Cox has done a terrific job on the kickoff here this afternoon. Dallas to take over on the 20-yard line, and number 75, Bob Lurtsema, a 7-year veteran from Western Michigan, who has been in the game replacing Gary Larson occasionally at left tackle, will now move into the right end position and replace Jim Marshall. Staubach, who has thrown 4 interceptions, is 9 of 18 in passing otherwise. So he's thrown 9 to his side and 4 to the other side. And I can tell you the 4 that he threw to the other side have had more influence on the game than the 9 he completed. In motion goes Newhouse, wide to the left. Staubach back to the pocket at the 10-yard line, firing over the middle, and the pass is bobbled and dropped by Drew Pearson out at the 37-yard line. He was in double coverage. The 2 right boys had him, Nate and Jeff, and he couldn't hold on to the ball. 16 first downs for the Vikings, 7 for the Cowboys. 134 yards rushing for the Vikes, 83 for the Cowboys. 103 yards passing for the Vikes, 44 for Dallas. Marshall is back in the game now. Number 70, Jim Marshall, has returned to the field of play. Lurtsema is out. 2nd and 10. Cowboys at their own 20 and needing plenty. You've got to continue to expect that Staubach will go for the strike. Makes the line play, steps up, looking, being chased, rolls out to the left side, and will take this one out of bounds as he is run out of bounds by Alan Page. He goes out at the 28-yard line. A gain for Staubach on that play, but this is a tough situation for a trailing team because everybody in the ballpark knows what he's going to do, including the defense. Got to put the ball in the air. Can occasionally get away with the draw and the sneaks up the middle, but basically he's got to complete some passes here because he needs 3 scores.
Vikings are now playing without one of their great pass rushers. Andy, Jim Marshall's out of action with a back injury he sustained, and he's been taken to the dressing room for examination. There's no word on the seriousness of the injury, but obviously it's relatively so. He is out of action, Jim Marshall, and Bob Lichtner is in there for him.
And we believe that Marshall has now he has in fact returned to the field of play. Here's a long stall-back attempt going way down the left sideline, and it is over the head of the intended receiver, who was Drew Pearson. Bobby Bryant covering on the play. Long sideline left for Pearson, incomplete. And now the Cowboys are going to have to punt. Number 51, Dave Manders, comes in to handle the centering for the punt. The 9-year veteran from Michigan State, who was their regular until a year ago. He retired at the beginning of this year, and Dallas brought him back simply to handle the punting chores. The snaps on punts, really. Bobby Bryant, the single deep safety for the Vikings. Jeff Wright is up short. And here is the punt from Bateman. Oh, he hung it high into the air. And Bryant calls for the fair catch, bobbles the ball. It's still topping around 3 at the 34-yard line, and Dallas has recovered the ball. So even the Vikings, who appear to have this game won, are not mistake-free. The punt return on a fair catch, fumbled by Bryant, and the recovery made by Bill Gregory, the man who is standing in today for Bob Lilly. And so, at the 34-yard line of Minnesota, Dallas has the ball. No change of possession. Cowboys keep it at the 34 of the Vikings.
Gained about 35 yards on the play. That's a good play.
Trying to put that one in. 7:54 left in the game as Newhouse goes frantically in motion to the left. Strawback stepping back and going over the middle. And this time a great catch made by Drew Pearson at the 15-yard line as he leaped between double coverage, hung on to the ball, and sustained a tremendous smack right at the 15, a first down for Dallas. They're on the move. And you know how those last 2 minutes of a game like this can drag on down. It seems like they're really up against it with 7.5 minutes to go, but if they could get one in a hurry here, it might not be so bleak after all. It's 27-10, favor Minnesota.
That's the 4th turnover for Minnesota in their own territory, getting that ball to Dallas.
Cowboys come out of the eye and now split from it. Garrison to the left, Newhouse to the right. Stepping back is Strawback. He's looking over the middle, and it is knocked away from Garrison, and a flag goes down, and we're going to have pass interference. Pass interference against the left cornerback, Nate Wright, on the intended pass at the 2-yard line to Garrison, and it'll be first and goal on the penalty against Minnesota from the 2.
No question about it. Nate Wright had his arms all over him and actually was pulling him when the ball hit his hand. So there again, you've got it's not a turnover mistake, but it's certainly a mistake in playing defensive football for the secondary, Nate Wright, a 5-year man, and that could be costly to Minnesota's lead.
Cowboys need to score and then have to get the football back. At the 2-yard line, it's first and goal. Strawback handing off to Garrison, and there was a fumble on the play, and it was recovered by Gary Larson of the Vikings. This has been an incredible game in the second half. Incredible. Don, let's count up these turnovers, and I hope you brought your calculator with you.
I'll check you off. You go ahead.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9 here in the second half.
Well, there have been 5 in the second half against Dallas. 1 in the first half is 6. And for Minnesota, a total of 4, including the punt return fumble.
Well, that's right. That would make 7
for Minnesota. That's right.
So, figuring in the punch, you've got 10 of them. Here are the Vikings now on their own 2-yard line. And a running play comes out from the 2-yard line. Tackle is made by Jethro Pugh and Pat Toomey. And the ball was carried by Oscar Reed, who gets it out to the 6-yard line. 6 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game. and it's been impossible to describe the exact trend of the second half, except to say that the ball has not remained in either side's possession for very long, sometimes changing on consecutive plays. 2nd and 7 from the Vikings 6-yard line. They would love to go on a sustained ball control drive down, not caring whether they score or not, but just chewing up the yardage and the clock. That would make them very, very happy. Oscar Reed, again, the ball handler here, and being stacked up just shy of the 10, again, by the middle defense of the front four for Dallas, Jethro Pugh and Bill Gregory. And with the running plays, of course, the clock continues to move. 5 minutes and 55 seconds left in this game. And the Dallas Cowboys, who have been to the Super Bowl twice, once as losers and once as winners, appear on the verge of being deprived of that opportunity today by the Vikings, who will be going for the second time. The Vikings lost their first attempt. And if memory serves me correctly, no team has ever gone the second time that they didn't win it, if they lost it the first time. Another handoff, and slanting wide is Reed this time, leaping over a tackler, and he has done exactly what they wanted him to do. He has kept possession as they get it out to the 19-yard line and gain a first down, and the Vikings have just made a big play on that ball control possession by Reed as Cliff Harris made the stop. With enough yardage for Reed to keep the Vikings in possession of the precious football. And Reed is coming to the sidelines now, being replaced by Bill Brown. Reed today has carried 18 times for 75 yards. So the Vikings keep the ball at their own 19. Not trying to score now, just trying to grind out the 10 plus 10 plus 10 to keep possession. Formation strong to the right. Foreman is met at the line of scrimmage and still gets it out to very nearly the 22, a pickup of almost 3. Larry Cole slicing him down, along with Dave Edwards. Rushing leaders today, Newhouse 50 yards, Garrison 10 yards, Staubach 30 yards. Second down, 7 to go for the Vikings, and the clock approaching the 4-minute mark now. And it's looking very much as though the Minnesota Vikings will be the National Football Conference representative in the Super Bowl 2 weeks from today, to be played at Rice Stadium in Houston. And their opposition will come from the game which starts later between the Oakland Raiders and the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins, of course, seeking to go to that game for the 3rd year in a row. The handoff to Bill Brown, the bully shredder who hits hard on the right side of the line and gains some yardage out to the 27. Jethro Pugh brings him down. Bill Brown had a pretty good year this time around for a guy 35 years of age. Averaged 4.5 yards every time he touched the ball and 47 carries. They used him in only special situations. And now the Vikes are bringing in an extra lineman, taking out receiver Carroll Dale and bringing in a tackle, Chuck Goodrum, a rookie from Florida A&M. They want extra blocking here on a 3rd and 2. Important possession play for both sides. The handoff to Foreman, and he gets out across the 30, and he appears to have the first down. He does. Cliff Harris makes the stop, but the Vikings have been impressive here in the clutch.
Andy, I've just done a little tabulating, and this is incredible. The last 9 possessions in this football game have been influenced by turnovers back and forth. There have been 10 in all, but Dallas has given up the ball a total of 4 times on interceptions, twice on fumbles. Minnesota 3 times on fumbles. That includes Bobby Bryant's punt reception, and 1 intercepted pass. Of those 10, 9 of them in the second half in successive order. And the winning team has not been free of those kind of plays either. Handoff here to Foreman, slanting wide to the left side, and he gets out to the 35-yard line, stopped by Cliff Harris and Cornell Green. You know, it's interesting, Don. Football coaches always talk about we've got to avoid the mistakes. But here today, both teams have made so many of them that the winning coach will not be able to say that avoiding mistakes was what did it for his side. And, of course, the losing coach will decry the mistakes, of course. We are now reaching the 2-minute mark. The stadium clock actually shows 2:06, and I think maybe we have a timeout taken here by the Cowboys. So check that as far as it being the 2-minute warning is concerned. We still have 6 seconds prior to the 2-minute warning. The Cowboys, of course, are concerned about possession.
They need the football. They trail here 27-10, and there really isn't much hope for them at this stage, I wouldn't think. Had they scored on that last drive, when they fumbled down near the goal line, they might have had a chance. Cowboys have taken a timeout. Scoreboard showing some statistics for you today. Foreman has carried the ball 19 times for 71 yards. His longest run was good for 20. His average is 3.7. Oscar Reed today, 18 carries for 75 yards. Newhouse today, 14 carries, 50 yards. His longest, 19. And Garrison hasn't been able to do much. 5 carries, 9 yards. His longest was 4 yards. So that's the way it stands here at Texas Stadium in Irving, with 2:06 left to go in the game, and the Vikings apparently on the way to the Super Bowl for the second time in their history. They defeated Cleveland to get into the Super Bowl last time, and they lost that Super Bowl game to Kansas City.
Continuation at the beginning of side.
This will be only the second time that the Vikings have defeated the Dallas Cowboys in 8 season tries. And a reminder to our friends along the line at the CBS Radio Network that you'll be hearing the Super Bowl on these same stations 2 weeks from this afternoon. From the 35, handoff to Foreman, runs into one of his blockers, slants out to the right side, and goes out of bounds as he gets across the 41-yard line. Looked to me as though he ran into Ed White, the left guard, as he tried to get out that way. Cliff Harris shoves him out of bounds. Marks the ball at the 40-yard line after a pickup of 5. And here's an interesting situation facing the Vikings. It's 3rd and 1. They could conceivably go for a strike here. Chuck Goodrum and Doug Kingsrider both come in to be the blocking tight ends on this play. And this will be the last play before the 2-minute warning. The clock stops showing 2:01. One thing about a game like this, Bud Grant, despite the victory, will not be without his coaching points for the next couple of weeks, because the turnovers have been considerable. They're all bunched up down there. Slanting off the left side is Bill Brown. He appears from here to have the yardage for the first. Cliff Harris and Benny Barnes getting together to make the stop. But that's the 3rd time in this drive that the Vikings have been able to keep possession of the football that they need, and that the Cowboys so desperately want. At this moment, the clock has reached 1:58 to go, and we are getting what is known as the 1:58 warning. Most bench is being warned that less than 2 minutes remain in the game.
You know, Andy, Minnesota's Vikings are going to have happy memories of what amounts to the first appearance they've ever made here at Texas Stadium. The previous time, the first time they played in Dallas, that was back in 1968, when the Cowboys, of course, in those years were playing at the Cotton Bowl. This is the first time ever at Texas Stadium, and they look around here and they say, hey, this is a great place, huh?
You've got to think that the famous Dallas computer, when it receives the information on this one, is going to reject it all.
There's Calvin Hill down there on the sidelines with that cast on his elbow. And, of course, it had been hoped he would be ready for the Super Bowl, but I think that's something that'll have to wait. Calvin now.
New running backs for the Vikings, Dave Osborne and Ed Marinaro, and the handoff goes to Osborne, hitting the left side of the line and gaining a couple of yards out to the 46. Hugh and Gregory combining for the stop. And on the running play, of course, the clock runs. And Dallas has made no effort to stop it. It runs with 1:38 showing and continuing. The ball at Minnesota's 46-yard line. And this, strangely enough, the way the ball is popped around here in the second half, this possession right now, which I'm sure is not going to result in a score, is going to be the key one for the Vikings, because they were able to keep the ball away from the Cowboys after the numerous mistakes which had been made, and they will protect their 17-point lead. Osborne again, a good hole as he cracks off the left side. He has a first down as he moves it into Dallas territory all the way to the 45-yard line. Harris finally stops the play, but that's the 4th first down on this game-ending drive, and this time the Cowboys have taken a timeout to stop the clock. It shows 1:03 left to play.
Andy, we might, during this timeout, take time to recap just briefly for those of you who might have turned in late. And how the scoring went, Fred Cox's 44-yard field goal in the first quarter, good for the first 3 points, and Minnesota taking a 10-0 lead when Chuck Foreman ran in from 5 yards out to cap an 87-yard drive. And that was all the scoring of the first half at 10-0. The Cowboys got on the scoreboard for the first time when Golden Richards ran a 63-yard punt return back to make it 10-7. That was just 5 minutes into the third quarter. It was in anybody's ball game at 10-7. Since then, the Vikings have gone ahead to 17-7 at that point with a touchdown on Fran Tarkenton to John Gilliam, a 54-yard pass to make it 17-10 at that point. Here again, action in the fourth quarter.
On first down, a handoff goes to Osborne, this time trying the right side of the line, and Osborne again has a first down. Here is reserve running back Dave Osborne, 9-year veteran from North Dakota, coming into the game for the first time, except for his special team play, and making back-to-back first down plays. This time all the way down to the 31-yard line of Dallas. Clock continuing to run, and there's nothing the Cowboys can do about this now. They do have one timeout left, but their situation has really disintegrated. Clock running with 30 seconds now left in the game. And how do you like Osborne? 2 times off the left side, once for a first down, and then off the right side for another first down. Marinara's been in there for 3 plays, but hasn't seen the ball yet. Osborne again, having trouble this time as he hits the right side and will gain only about a yard before Bill Gregory makes the stop. And that, my friends, could be the last play of this game, as we are about set to crown the Minnesota Vikings the National Football Conference champions. 2 seconds, 1 second. The game is over, and the Vikings are going to the Super Bowl for the second time. The end of the game and the final score: Minnesota Vikings 27, Dallas Cowboys 10, and we'll be back with a recap in a moment.
Today's episode is brought to you by thisdayinthenfl.com. Celebrating football's greatest moments, one day at a time. Listen to classic broadcasts, explore historic games, and keep the legacy of the NFL alive at thisdayinthenfl.com.